Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome in, Maggie and Perloff show. No Maggie today. Maggie is taking a well-deserved break in parts unknown. She's somewhere very warm right now. EJ Stewart is sitting in, and we're both very jealous of Maggie. But I think Maggie would have loved the story of the day. The Denver Nuggets fire Coach Mike Malone and General Manager Calvin Booth out of nowhere with a week left in the season. Unprecedented, at least I don't know a precedent in the NBA for a team that has a great chance to at least go to the conference final in the Denver Nuggets, has the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. Doesn't make any sense. But, EJ, I got to tell you, I've learned my lesson.
Okay.
Because you were here, and I sat in this chair and squinted and said, well, maybe the Dallas Mavericks knew what they were doing when they traded Luka Doncic. You did not say that, to your credit. And I rationalized, and I said, oh, okay, well, they're getting Anthony Davis, and their defense is going to be better, Kyrie and Anthony Davis. I was an idiot. It was a dumb move. It made no sense. There were children making that decision. This is the exact same thing. There's no rationalizing this. There's no squinting and saying, well, they were going to fire him anyway. They weren't going to win the playoffs. It doesn't matter. This is completely unacceptable. And the NBA has lost its mind. There's so much pressure to win now that these franchises are making decisions that don't make any sense. And there's just no way to explain this.
There really isn't. And what I will say is, look, the Denver Nuggets All-Star break had not been playing well, right? I think they were 9-11. There were some games where Murray was out and Jokic was out, but they seemed to be a team that was definitely, to me, it seemed like just trying to get to the playoffs, but perhaps maybe there was some signs of concern. Russell Westbrook, your favorite player, I say ironically, started to show some signs that perhaps the early success he was having was starting to become a detriment later into the season. So I see where the Nuggets started to struggle, but I agree, it's difficult to really wrap your head around a championship caliber coach who is taking the Nuggets into multiple deep playoff runs, and right before you get to the playoffs, you pull the plug. I guess my question to you, Pearl, is does this kind of not taint the Western Conference playoffs? But look, we have the Nuggets now coming in with a new head coach. The Grizzlies, they have won 3 in a row, but they have a new head coach coming into the playoffs. The playoffs are where coaching matters the most. So we're going to see a situation where this first round that everyone was really excited about because of how good the West is, and perhaps people were upset about how boring the regular season has been. Has this been kind of tainted because the Nuggets pulling the plug on their season, essentially?
Well, I understand the question because the Nuggets were obviously a dangerous team, but aren't there so many other contenders here that they don't even need the Nuggets? Because you have, obviously, the front runners in the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yep.
I think the Lakers and the Warriors have shown enough that they're a serious team right now. I mean, honestly, as far as the public, aren't they watching the Warriors and the Lakers more carefully? And doesn't this make the Lakers more of a threat because they have problems with the Nuggets? So in a way, you could argue it juices up the Western Conference playoffs because now we might see LeBron in the conference finals, where the Nuggets, I think, were a big threat the way they're built to the Lakers and specifically. So it's all matchup dependent. No, I mean, and also there are other teams here. The Clippers are playing really well.
Clippers are the team that I think people got to start paying attention to.
And we know Houston, everyone calls him this young team, but they have a couple veterans too.
Oh, Fred VanVleet's a champion.
Yeah, and Dylan Brooks is, I mean, you never know what's going to happen with that dude. So generally, I think the Western Conference has plenty of juice. This does not bother me. Does it take away a little bit for you?
It does, only because I think it's a great point that the Warriors and the Lakers are looking at this and smiling, right? Because I think they are the teams that saw the Denver Nuggets and said, that's a team we probably don't want to play. Like, they see the Oklahoma City Thunder and say, okay, good team, young team, won a million games, but they don't have the experience. They saw a team like the Rockets, young team, zero experience. I mean, in types of those guys that won on other teams, right? So I think they were like, okay, we can get those teams, we'll be straight. I think now they look at this and say, wow, the Nuggets now may even be an easier challenge if we have to face them because they're going to be going to a playoff series with a coach who's never coached in a playoff series before, who doesn't know the day-to-day, game-to-game adjustments. So to me, that takes away from it because, yes, the conference finals may be better because maybe we'll have bigger stars, but the first round, the Western Conference, is supposed to be Mortal Kombat. It was supposed to be a very difficult challenge for all of these teams. And to me, I want to see great competition throughout. I don't want to see the Lakers and Warriors potentially get a pass to the second round because they're getting coaches who are inexperienced and not ready for this moment.
Well, unfortunately, the Lakers and the Warriors keep ending up facing each other in the first round. Now, we were worried they'd face each other as a 4-5, and now they're facing each other as a 3-6. But the standings are crazy. There are 4 teams ranging from the 4 seed to the 7 seed were 47-32, same exact record. So there's a good chance Denver, if this coaching move actually hurts them, which it probably could in the short term, you can see that.
Yeah.
They fall into the play-in, maybe not even make it out of the play-in, and then they're not even there to talk about. That scenario is very, very likely. And Minnesota is only 1 game behind them, and they're playing well, too. So there's a chance we don't even see the Nuggets in the real playoffs.
Yeah, there's no team from 3 to 8 in the Western Conference standings has clinched a playoff spot. They're play-in bound, but nobody has clinched a playoff spot. So you're right. There's a chance that we may not even see the Nuggets make the playoffs because you're talking about a 2-game difference between 3 and 8. This is a absolute, lockstep kind of race you have here in the Western Conference. And the other question I have for you, Pearl, when it comes to superstars, right? Because we're always looking to see which superstar is going to go to the next team, right? Like we've been trying to put Giannis on teams. Yeah. We've been trying to put other guys on teams. And sometimes we've seen superstars get traded and we don't even expect it, like we saw with Luka Doncic. Is this a precursor potentially to Nikola Jokic maybe saying, you know what, this looks chaotic. We fired our head coach and our general manager who reportedly were at odds the last 2 years. They apparently couldn't stand each other. There were factions in multiple parts of the organization.
The general manager and the coach, that is.
Yes, general manager and the head coach, I'm sorry.
Not Nikola Jokic. Jokic, it seems like he's always been considered close to Mike Malone.
Yeah.
So I think that is where people are like, wait a second, isn't this Jokic's guy?
Yeah. So, like, if you were him, would you look at this and say, you know what, I got the championship, maybe it's time for me to move on? Because I'm looking at the situation, and that Western Conference, as you mentioned, is not getting any easier. The Thunder aren't going anywhere. The Rockets aren't going anywhere. Even if those teams don't win this year, you're still going to have to go through those teams. Now you're going to do it with a new head coach and a new general manager and a roster that has lost talent over the last 2 or 3 years. Some of the free agency guys.
Yeah, no. It's definitely a huge concern. Jokic just turned 30 very recently. We've always talked about it. It's crazy that Jokic is so much younger. He's getting a little older now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's one amazing fit for him off the top of my head. Oh, can you imagine if he got to Golden State with Steph Curry?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Lakers.
No, I mean, the Lakers, of course, collect superstars, and it would make sense. They've gotten every other great center in the history of the NBA to go there. But can you imagine style-wise in Golden State? I think he's even better fit there with all the passing. He'd be amazing.
Well, if Jokic played with the Warriors, Steph Curry might get 6, 7 championships. I'm not even joking.
Curry could get another 2 years out of that.
Yeah, exactly, because you talk about so much how the Warriors do such a great job of moving the ball, right, of this constant motion, constant passing offense. Steve Kerr does a great job kind of adopting that stuff from Coach Popovich. And you add the best passing big man maybe of all time, a guy who played point center.
Bill Walton might have an issue with that.
I love Bill Walton.
Arvydas Sabonis might have an issue. Arvydas Sabonis was like a globetrotter out there. You do not know.
Those guys were great. None of them average almost a triple-double.
Jokic. There's a good argument. Well, Walton might have. Actually, we checked when Walton's knees were actually healthy. He was an incredible passer.
For sure.
We're going old school here. But, more realistically, if he's going to leave Denver might send him east. I mean, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's the conversation that Denver Nuggets have put on themselves here. Everyone's talking about it now, like, oh, they're going to lose Joker. They are Dallas Mavericks 2.0. Did they not learn anything from Dallas trading Luka? It feels like they are falling into the same exact path. And aren't you annoyed by this? What do you think? What do you think it says about the state of the league that two teams that are in good playoff position, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Denver Nuggets, trade their coach within a month of the playoffs? I think it's a damning statement about the NBA that the expectations of the owners are just way too high and that they're haphazard and they don't, they start to pay this luxury tax and the apron and they go crazy and expect these coaches to do things that they can't. And then it's just disrespectful to fire a guy who has a championship. It's disrespectful to fire him this close to the playoffs. He did not deserve this. Mike Malone, I mean, come on. How many teams right now are going to line up to hire that guy? Guy can obviously coach basketball. Nothing about this makes sense. I'm very, very down on the Denver Nuggets ownership. Yeah,
and it's funny you say that because talking about those other coaches, right, and seeing how they were reacting to the news. Tom Thibodeau, who a lot of Knicks fans looking at him and say, hey, it might be nice to have him over here in New York.
Oh, my God.
But,
if the Knicks fire their coach with 8 days left and hire this guy, I can defend that move.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? I think a lot of coaches are looking at this situation saying this may be terrible for the health and future of our profession. I want you guys to hear Joe Mazzulla who is a championship coach. He just won a championship. His team has 59 wins this season. They are one of the best teams in the NBA, still one of the favorites to win a title. And this is how he feels walking into his job every day, apparently, according to him.
Part of what motivates me, but I wake up every day saying this could be my last day, and that's not, it's just, you have to have that type of perspective because it gives you gratitude. It also keeps you, hungry, and so it's just, you have to have a healthy balance of you want this for as long as you can. At the same time, you're very much replaceable because, that's just how it works, and so every day I remind myself of my own mortality, and I think that's what kind of keeps me in a perspective and, and a gratitude of the opportunity that you have.
I mean, Pearl, he's talking about mortality every day being maybe his last. I mean, that doesn't sound like a guy who's very happy in his job. Now, I know Joe Mazzulla is a little intense, and I get that. But I think a lot of coaches are looking at this to say, oh, no, if there's any chance somehow that one of these guys, whether it be the head coach of the Grizzlies or the new interim head coach of the Nuggets, if those guys end up becoming the next Paul Westhead, a guy who takes over a job midseason and wins a championship, if somehow those teams go on runs, this is going to change the entire landscape of head coaching in the NBA, because you could end up being in a situation where teams say, you know what, like, it doesn't matter when we pull the plug on a coach. If it's the right move, let's do it. So I'm actually very fascinated to see if these teams have success, will this continue moving forward? And I don't know if that's great for the league. If you have a situation where coaches could just be fired at any moment, at any time, I think coaches do add some character. They're not the stars the NBA players are, but I think the idea that you can just throw a guy around here and there, I don't think that helps the league at all.
Well, define success. How is this possibly going to end up in success?
Well, if the Nuggets go to the conference finals or go to the finals, that's successful. If you fired Malone and then you say, well, you know what, for a team that maybe would have got there anyway, but still you would say, you know what, you can't look at this and say, hey, like, us firing Malone is the reason why we didn't win a title. You'd say, you know what, like, a rookie coach went in there and turned the game. They're not playing well right now. So if they turned it around and all of a sudden they beat the Lakers, they beat some of these teams, they get close to the championship or they make it to the finals and lose to the Celtics, that would be successful, no?
That would definitely be successful. I have news for you. That's not happening. You just fell into the what if Anthony Davis is amazing on defense and Kyrie Irving just fills the vacuum that Luka left. No, that's not happening. Again, maybe I'll be just as wrong on this one. There's no way especially in this Western Conference in the year 2025, how intense this playoff field is. That's not happening. And also, this is a sign of weakness to fire your coach with a week left. It shows you really have no backbone as an owner. I don't think there's any chance of success. And we've seen the Nuggets break apart this championship level team. Yeah. I think they're very top heavy. They've spent a lot to keep their top 5 guys, and they've lost their entire bench. They made a mistake. I don't necessarily blame Calvin Booth, the fire GM. It's tough if you're an NBA champion and you don't want to really spend a ton of money. It's hard to keep those players together. But we've seen the Nuggets have been slowly eroding from the championship team, and now I think that it's no longer slow. I don't think there's any chance this is going to be a success.
The only reason why I hold a glimmer of hope that this will be an NBA a success is, and it's an indictment on these NBA players, because, and I know we have sound, maybe we'll get to it later, but Michael Malone a couple of weeks ago, and Michael Malone is a straight shooter. We talked about coaches yesterday and whether or not guys are kind of hard asses or some guys are more a little light. Mike Malone is one of those hard-nosed coaches where he will go into the media, he will blast his team, he will blast players, and he's very, very cold sometimes when it comes to talking about his team when they're not playing well. I wonder if he was such a issue, or the players were having such an issue potentially with him and his hard coaching, maybe adding a new guy who's maybe going to be more than put my arm around you and I'm going to say, hey, it's okay, buddy. Like, we're going to get him next time. Maybe that gives this team a jolt.
In a week? A week?
Look,
come on.
Look, bro, mental health and the way people feel about how they're going out there in the game is real, right?
Is this a Gen Z thing? Mental health? You're explaining this with a mental health thing?
I'm not even saying it as like to say this is good for the players. I'm saying that this is a reality, that the NBA players run the league. And if they don't like a coach or how they're coaching, they can say, you know what, I don't want them, get them out of there. And they will tank their effort. They will not give the kind of motivation or the kind of output that you would expect until a coach gets fired. I mean, Ja Morant, for the most of the season, was in a fog. Yeah, and then they fired their head coach, and now he's averaging 30 over the last 10 games. Like, we see teams and players change when a coach that they don't like gets the boot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not sure if championship level players, like with LeBron. Sure. LeBron, I don't know if he would do that. LeBron Morant hasn't won anything now.
LeBron definitely did it with David Blatt. I mean, he was giving zero effort, and then they fired Blatt, and then he was all right, time to go time, and then they won a championship. So he did do it.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You said you paint a scenario where the Nuggets were just now have some success. What do you think is more likely, that they don't get out of the play-in or they get to the conference finals?
I'm gonna still say they get to the conference finals only because of Jokic.
Okay, I
because get out of the play. So you mean get out of the play and they don't make the playoffs at all?
Yeah.
They'll get to the playoffs and they could win a round, because at the end of the day, you're looking at the standings, right? So if you're Denver right now, you have a matchup against the Clippers. I really love how the Clippers are playing right now, and I think they're maybe the most underrated team in the NBA, and that's damning words because we all know what happens with Harden and Kawhi's health and everything with the Clippers. But like, that's not a matchup I look at and say, okay, the Denver Nuggets have no chance.
But that matchup, that is very unlikely to happen because all the teams. So their remaining games, the Nuggets have at Sacramento, Memphis, and at Houston. Now, Houston, I don't know, the last game of the year might be locked into their spot.
Right, so Houston could be tanking, so to speak.
So they might get that win, but they're now 4 teams with the same exact record. Yeah, I guess because they're not in the play-in, I don't really want to do this bet, but I think they're closer to falling out of the play-in than getting the conference finals. I do
that
not.
Means they'd have
they've lost 4 in a row. They're obviously not playing well. They have Russell Westbrook on their team. That is not going to work in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, look, right now the evidence is really leaning to your side, not just previous years, but the way he's played the last few weeks. But that would suggest they'd have to lose to a Memphis or Minnesota, and then lose to Dallas or Sacramento. I think there are too many steps.
Minnesota beat them last year. I think they'd be a real threat to Denver in the play-in. Then they'd have to lose to Dallas or Sacramento.
That's where it's hard for me to see, right? Because then
it depends how they react to this coach.
Yeah.
All right, I will give you that. I didn't realize they played the Rockets in their last game, who are already cemented at the number 2 seed and will not be playing their starters. So that gives Denver a win. Man, it's crazy how the West is like this right now. And the East, on the other hand, teams are like, are we going to be in the lottery or are we going to be in the play-in? What's going on here? The East is totally kind of pathetic. I think that underscores some of what's going on here, by the way. The West is too competitive right now, and I think the owners are making moves and wondering, well, we have a championship level roster. We should be in the finals. We have Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
We have Luka Doncic. We have Ja Morant. We should be in the finals. Why aren't you getting me to the finals? You're fired. But the timing is indefensible. If anyone can defend Nuggets ownership, give us a call, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Does anybody think the Nuggets know what they're doing? I do not. EJ at least gives some player coach theory. That was not bad. It was a good effort.
It's the only way I can see this turning out. It doesn't mean it's the right move, but I think there's a chance to say, you know what, if these players just are not responding because Mike Malone is just too tough and he's too hard, he's too honest, and they need a softer coach because these players in this generation are just softer when it comes to that aspect of coaching, then they might play better. I mean, that's the only thing I can say, because otherwise it looks like you're throwing in the towel in the season. I think it's a disgrace to the fans, right? You're investing the whole season and you fire your coach a week before the playoffs. It's terrible.
I know. Go with that latter explanation. That's what's happening here. They don't think they're going to win the title, and they're just like, let's get a jump on the coaching search. 3 games left in the season. Just whatever. It makes me mad. I really do not like this giving up on the season. That's what, again, my bigger problem with the NBA too is, God, teams are thinking if we don't win the championship, let's just mail it in. I just feel like there's a lot of that around the league. There's a lot of teams who give up. My Sixers completely gave up on the season, obviously.
Yeah, they quit.
In epic fashion. And fans are happy about it because now they're going to be in the lottery. Lost 12 in a row. Amazing. Okay, coming up. Going to change the topic a little bit. We have a Mel Kiper mock draft. And I'll tell you right now, Maggie's not here, and I think she would agree with me. I will stop anything. I will pull over to the side of the road. A Kiper mock draft comes out. I need to read it immediately, and I want to share it with you because it's really, really interesting news on the quarterbacks, and there are a lot of them. We'll get to that next, right here, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Maggie's out today. Executive producer EJ Stewart sitting in the big chair. It's a good day. EJ really knows the NBA back and forth, so he did his best to explain why the Nuggets would fire head coach Mike Malone. Your theory, at least it's a theory, that maybe the players were not responding to Malone's style and they need a hug, but that's kind of weird with 3 games left in the season.
And it's weak. And like I said before, like it's not like I hate this. Michael Malone, to be clear, and I've said this a bunch, he's my favorite coach in the NBA. I think that I can make a case that he's the best. I think he's been handicapped to some degree by the lack of talent they've had and the guys they've lost, because people have kind of complained about his rotations being rigid, and he's Joker and Murray are playing the most minutes they played in their careers. I'm like, yeah, well, they don't really have anyone else to play, so that's a problem. So, but no, I think Malone's awesome. I've always enjoyed him. So I hate that he got fired, but I think it's just a microcosm of what today's NBA is. And the reports were that there is this conflict maybe within the team that they felt like Murray and Jokic were getting much more preferential treatment than Malone. Than the other guys, right? Malone was in some ways like kind of giving those guys a little more less of the heat than he would some of the other role players, and that was causing friction amongst the team. As you said in the break, it's like, yeah, no crap, right?
Yeah.
It's maybe 2 future Hall of Famers. Like, of course they're going to get more preferential treatment, but that's just the NBA now.
Yep.
If guys can't buy into a coach, or the sun doesn't come up right one day, or they wake up on the wrong side of the bed, they go give 50% effort. This is what happens. So if you're an owner and you're a general manager, now this was taken out of the general manager's hand because the general manager also got fired. But if you're an owner, you're kind of stuck. You're kind of at the whim of how these players react. So I think this, while it's desperate and I think it's silly, I think this is a microcosm of what we see in the NBA today, which is that the players have the ultimate power.
Yeah, but if you're the owner and your number one priority is keeping Jokic, is this move going to help? I'm not sure it's clear that it is. It feels like you might be hurting yourself here. A 4-game losing streak and you fire Mike Malone, is that the kind of stability that's going to attract Jokic long term? I doubt it. It feels like this is the beginning of the end.
I can't imagine that. But to be fair, they've had this friction with Malone and with Calvin Booth, the general manager, for 2 years. And again, reporting out there has been that Joker has seen this and has not enjoyed seeing this. Now, it sounds like he's more of a Malone guy, but that this has frustrated him, that this been this dysfunction within the organization. Mm-hmm. So he sees that too. So maybe they say, hey, look, like, we screwed up with pairing these two guys. Like, we're going to give you a clean slate. We're going to give you a bunch of say in who the next head coach is. Now, I would be concerned about that because it was his idea to bring in Russell Westbrook. He was lobbying publicly to bring in Russell Westbrook. And early in the season, it looked like, oh, wow, Russ is giving them a lot. And now the Denver fans want to shoot him into the moon. Like, they can't wait for him to leave. So, like, if you're really going to say, all right, we're going to actually clean the slate up completely and give Joker even more power and maybe pick his coach and his general manager, early signs of GM Jokic aren't great, right? We know LeBron, Le GM, Le Joker, or Joke GM. I don't know how you would call it. He hasn't been that great either.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's better at picking actual horses than teammates. Give us a call if you have any explanation for what the Nuggets are doing. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Or if you want Jokic on your team, if you got a good fit, I'd like to hear it because I'm already imagining him elsewhere.
Brooklyn Nets.
Ryan Botcher weighing in. Was that in my ear or over air?
No, that was on air.
Okay.
On air. The Brooklyn Nets will get Jokic.
Yeah. Okay.
In my dreams.
You should have kept that over in within ourselves. I don't think that makes any sense. Okay. Andrew Bogusch is here for headlines, but before we get to headlines, I want to share with you who has read the Mel Kiper mock draft. EJ, have you read it?
I've read it.
Oh, you're out. Okay. Bogusch, have you read it?
I have not.
Okay. Kiper gives the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants quarterbacks. Bum, bum, bum.
Oh.
Can you guess who?
At 2 and 3, or does he move them around?
I'm not telling you that.
Oh. Okay.
That's the trick.
Okay.
Ah.
So that means
Now we're getting good. Now we're getting spicy here.
So that means the Giants are staying at 3 and taking Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
And the Browns are trading somewhere in the first round to take Jackson Dart.
That is a good guess.
Survey says.
That is not right.
Okay.
Wait, Manny or Ryan Botcher on the other side of the glass. Have you guys read the mock draft?
I haven't read the entire mock draft, but I know what happens in the first 3 picks.
Okay.
According to Mel.
You're out too. Ryan.
That's right.
I did not.
So who do you think the Giants and the Browns end up with quarterback in this mock draft?
Okay, I think the Browns take Shedeur.
Okay.
And the Giants trade back to take Dart.
Okay.
No, they'll take Hunter, and then they'll trade back into the first to take Dart.
So Mel Kiper, God bless him, has the number 33 pick. The number 33 pick, a quarterback, Tyler Shuck to the Cleveland Browns, which is actually kind of interesting because there's a lot of reporting that the Browns love Milroe. A lot of big-time NFL draft experts saying the Browns are very interested in Jalen Milroe, but they have Tyler Shuck. You know what? They've drafted old quarterbacks before, Brandon Whedon, and they've drafted tall quarterbacks before, Derek Anderson. So Tyler Shuck fits right in.
Couch, right?
Oh, that's worked out very well.
But Tyler Shuck's 25. He's ready to play right away, so that makes a lot of sense. 34, the New York Giants, Bogues, Jalen Milroe.
Well, wait. First of all, This is an unfair question.
Why?
This is second round.
Right. Well, that was the
You
trick.
need to give me a bigger parameter here.
Well, it was an impossible assignment.
You got to put on your GM hat, Bogusch. You failed.
I did. I made
You
a
guys
trade.
Kuiper's playing 4D chess here. I mean, Joe Shane's kid said, "Get me Jalen Milroe," and the Giants are following through on this.
To quote Roddy Piper, when you think you have the answers, Perloff changes the question.
Yeah. Now, so I'm
Did Roddy
assuming
Piper
this.
say that? I don't remember.
Yeah. it's a
Well,
classic.
somebody wrote it for him.
Documented. It's documented, yes.
So Jackson Dart's off the board in the first
Yeah,
round before
the-
we get to the
so
Shuck
Kiper
Milroe
has-
back to back.
Yeah, Dart going 26 to the Rams. Now, which is a really interesting. Sean McVay said in the press, "I haven't done any work on the quarterbacks." But everyone is
That's funny.
secretly
I love being
linking.
lied to.
If Shedeur falls, people think he would be a great fit with Sean McVay. Maybe the Rams trade up a little bit, but they drafted 26. It's going to be hard to get a quarterback. Obviously, Matthew Stafford is older, makes sense. I wonder here if the Giants and Browns really want a quarterback. Do they have to trade in the first? You get the 5th year guarantee, and also you have to be very scared of teams trading in to get the quarterbacks there. That's where Jordan Love went at 26. That's famously where Lamar Jackson went at 31. So I don't know that the Browns and the Giants can leave the first day thinking that they're going to get a quarterback in the second round.
Can I give you an EJ draft commandment?
Hit me.
I would never draft a quarterback in the second round. The hit rate on those guys is like negative 10%. Like it never works out, and I don't know why, because they're a third or fourth rounders who end up being much
Somebody
better.
got scarred by Christian Hackenberg.
Yes, right. But
This crap is crap.
There is so much history, so much data that suggests that the guy's not good enough for a first round grade. Do not take him in the first round. Maybe take him later or whatever. But if those guys in Milroe and in Shuck, if they're not good enough to be first round picks, and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll take him in the second round. What we've seen with history is that those guys end up not being star players. They end up not being guys who are difference makers. So the Browns and the Giants need difference makers. They don't need just a guy or a guy they're going to have for a couple years and they're going to take a flyer on and then send them packing. Like I would not draft a quarterback in the second round. I just keep waiting and maybe you get we saw Holly Rowe yesterday say Will Howard, someone she liked. Maybe take a flyer on the kid from Texas, Quinn Ewers, or Bogusch, as we like to say. Like, I would do that rather than take a guy high in the second round. Those quarterbacks never hit.
You should go tell that to Boomer, by the way.
Yeah, which
Boomer was the second round pick.
That was like the 80s.
He might have been the 24th pick in the draft, but he was the second pick.
What round
That's the second
did
round
the
pick.
Super Bowl winning quarterback go in? I'm trying to remember who won the Super Bowl this year. Oh yeah, my Philadelphia Eagles. What round did Jalen Hurts go in?
He went second round, but those
Brett
are
Favre, second round pick.
Those are anomalies.
Drew Brees, second round pick.
You know, my favorite.
right.
Randall Cunningham, second
Andy
round pick.
Dalton, Colin
Andy
Kaepernick.
Dalton, yeah.
We're talking about a range of like 30 years. We're talking about we're naming guys that were drafted before I was born. Like that's my point.
Andy Dalton?
No, Randall Cunningham and Boomer Esiason were drafted before I was born. Like 10, 15 years before I was
Great
born.
quarterbacks.
They were
Love
both
of
awesome.
them.
But like I think when you look at recent history, and Jalen Hurts is a great example, but outside of him, there are not a lot of examples of second round quarterbacks hitting.
Listen, you're a Jets fan, so you've been
Yeah.
burned by Geno, you've been burned by Hackenberg.
I think
not
that's
just
your
the Jets.
commandment is don't be a Jet fan in the draft.
Oh, it's not that just Jets.
Give me some-
J-E-E-S.
because part of it is a lot of teams do trade into the first round to get their guy.
Right.
So I'm not sure. It is a pretty good commandment. We're just trying to pick it apart. I kind of agree. Maggie, by the way, is always like draft a quarterback late and develop him. Like you don't develop a quarterback. But I have some other picks here. Drew Lock, not so much. Deshaun Kaiser, no.
Yeah.
Christian Hackenberg, terrible. Derek Carr, big hit.
Carr was good. Yeah.
I mean, come on, for a second round pick, he was 13-3 in his second year. He was
Every
a
team
big
wants
hit.
to get
Jimmy
rid of him.
Garoppolo, I would say, confusing
Useful.
because he was Brady,
Fine.
but
Yeah.
he
Good
was a
looking,
hit.
though. Very good looking.
Geno Smith, it turned out, was talented. He was just at the wrong
Terrible
team.
pick for the Jets.
Brock Osweiler got
Terrible.
Hard
Yeah,
pass.
no, he wasn't terrible. He started games
Brock
for the Super Bowl.
Osweiler?
That doesn't mean he
Are you
was a
kidding
good
me?
pick.
He was terrible.
Osweiler
dude.
helped them win that Super Bowl.
Tall glass of water.
What?
Brock Osweiler was not terrible. Brock Osweiler was an important part of that Super Bowl team. Like, he came in and steadied the ship when Peyton couldn't even throw the ball 8 yards. And I think he got paid at one point, too. Andy Dalton hit. Colin Kaepernick hit. Jimmy Clausen, bust. Pat White, poor Pat White.
Playing wide receiver out there. Sort of.
Yeah, Pat White almost got killed on a play. Not kidding. He just got a big hit. Brian Brom, Chad Henne.
What? What about Chad Henne?
Oh, yeah.
If the Giants, I was
thinking of Chad.
If the Giants or
I was
Browns-
thinking of Chad Pennington.
Oh, yeah, he looked at me with a glimmer in his eye because he knows how much I love Chad Pennington.
Kevin
I'm
Cobb.
like, what am I supposed to say to that?
Kevin Cobb, I would argue, hit one of my good friends.
Let me make this clear, though.
Yeah.
If the Giants or Browns are relying on most of the guys that you're talking about to turn around their franchises, they're doomed.
Who's this
Even
guy?
the good guys, Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr, those guys wouldn't turn around the Browns and Giants.
Did you want Derek Carr for your Jets two off seasons ago?
No, I wanted Aaron Rodgers.
You did?
Yeah,
oh,
I was an Aaron
should have
Rodgers
taken
guy.
Carr.
Why? We would have been same
Second
place
round
we are
pick.
now. The Saints haven't made the playoffs.
2001. Who's this guy? A short guy that the San Diego Chargers drafted?
so-
Drew Brees. You ever hear of him?
It took him to 2001 to find me a future Hall of Fame.
You know that 50% of the 50, maybe even a little higher of the first round quarterbacks bust too.
Sure, and I get that, but I'd rather take the high end talent than the second round flyer. Because you named some quarterbacks that were in the league for 2-3 years and they were packing groceries. They weren't
30%
even
of
in
these
the
are
NFL.
Jets quarterbacks who fail.
Well, that shows you it's stupid strategy, right? That doesn't that add to the point that the Jets keep doing it. Maybe we shouldn't be doing it for other teams.
Well, I start off by saying I'm not sure that if you really want Shuck and Milroe that you're not panicking and trading up. You do see a lot of trades right around there. You saw last year the Chiefs traded up for Xavier Worthy, and I can't remember what happened with Xavier Legette, and there was a bunch of trades around 33, 32.
Legette, I think was the first pick and second round, maybe? Or maybe it was the last pick. I forgot.
I did the bill. Yeah, I feel like there's always a lot of shenanigans right around there because there's a break between the first round and the second round. We'll see. I wonder if Milroe can go in the first. That's really my new obsession.
Legette was the 32nd pick.
Yes,
in the first round.
Last pick.
And did the Panthers trade for him?
I believe they did.
They had to, obviously.
Yeah,
they didn't win the Super Bowl, as I
have
recall.
From the Chiefs via Buffalo.
Right, so they traded with the Bills, and the Bills took Keon Coleman.
Correct, with the 33rd pick right
Right,
after.
it's this incredible personality, but didn't really have the game. All right, Andrew Bogusch. Give us some headlines, and I'm dying to know when you're going to place a certain headline about a certain team that failed miserably last night in the show.
Everything is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. At least they didn't get blown out this time, but the Knicks still can't beat an elite team.
9 seconds
I'll fight
to go.
all of you.
Tatum into the front court. Tatum steps back away from Anunoby. 3 in the air.
Go.
Got it! Jason Tatum ties the game with 2.9 to go.
Sean Grande said Maxwell, Celtics radio, Tatum forcing OT, where the Celtics won at the Garden last night, 119-117, dropping Tom Thibodeau's team to 0-9 against Boston, Cleveland, and OKC.
We didn't start the third the way we would have liked, but we fought back, fixed that, then got down again, came back again, made some hustle plays. And then these games come down to 1 or 2 possessions.
That we didn't make.
Bogusch, I did the math on that percentage. That's 0%.
Is that good?
No, that's not good.
Okay, so sarcastic Manny likes to ask sometimes. Is that good? Is that bad? It's bad.
Imagine hearing this from two guys that root for the Nets and the Sixers. This is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No. But here's the difference. He does have a Sixers hat. I'm not walking in here with a Drazen Petrovic throwback after a Nets random win over the Pelicans last night. You guys change your wardrobe based on Nick results.
We're passionate. Don't be mad
Yeah,
because
what does
we
that have to do with
actually have a
anything?
backbone unlike you.
By the way, I do
Backbone? What are you talking about?
By the
I'm
way-
going to pick a different team.
I also do that with the Mets too. You don't say anything, and you notice it. I will change my.
I have not noticed that you pick
You didn't
clothes
see what
based
I
on Met
You
wins.
didn't see what I wore on the first day of opening day.
It looked like Shea Stadium threw up on him on opening day.
is opening day. I almost wore a Gary Carter jersey opening day. That's fine. Whether you leaving out 2 different sets of clothes based on Nick results is a place that I don't follow.
Is it all black for like losses?
I haven't noticed that trend that it's like a funeral feel, but
Not yet.
but it's either
Playoffs.
regular
Another
clothes
Nets
or
fan.
Knicks gear.
Another Nets
Yeah,
fan
that's what
talking
it
out
was.
of the side of his
Hey,
mouth.
Yeah, I don't listen to people whose teams aren't even in the playoffs.
I didn't trade
By the way.
5 first for Mikal Bridges.
This is la 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 la. I don't hear you. La 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 la.
I came in this morning, and it was either during the game or on social media. A lot of people started to talk, can the Knicks get out of the first round? I'm not making this up. This is not me.
Oh, come on.
This is not me. Those guys got so mad. We're professionals. You guys take it so personally. You're like 14-year-old Andrew Perloff. You can't look at the Knicks rationally.
The reason why that take is ridiculous to me is, look, I think Knicks were out of the first round. I would be shocked if they got bounced in the first round. But my point is, I hate the takes to have no, like, okay, if they get out of the first round, then we'll say, well, you were wrong. You're like, well, the Knicks aren't going to win a championship. It's like, well, no, you said they wouldn't get out of the first round. So, like, yeah, so stand on business when you say things like the Knicks can't get out of the first round. And then when they're wrong, because you will be wrong in a couple of weeks, say, all right, I was wrong. Don't backtrack and say, well, they're not going to win a championship. That's what's going to happen.
Who said it? Okay.
Just a bunch of old heads who are just looking for clicks. Just no research, no thought, just saying words on TV.
It's not just him. There are other people who've been pointing that out there. But it's ridiculous.
I think the research is 3 beatings by the Celtics before last night.
That's not the team they're playing in the first round.
Exactly, man.
No, but I think the argument is how good actually are the Knicks?
But that makes zero
Good
sense
enough to beat
because
the
the team that they have a good record against are the teams they'll play in the first round. So to say they're not going to get past these other weaker teams because they can't beat the Celtics doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make logical sense.
By the way, your Nets screwed me last night, Bo.
I know.
The Nets could not beat the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Sixers desperately need the Pelicans to come up with a win to move from 5 to 4 in the Tankathon. So the Sixers are now the 5 pick. Do you understand? I'd honestly rather root for the Sixers right now. I'm being dead honest. I do not want a team. I do not want a team who is going to disappoint me in the playoffs like the Knicks. I'd rather just tank and just throw the dice for Cooper Flagg. Let's go.
The Sixers dropped the ball last season, didn't they not?
Last 10 seasons? How many second round exits they've had?
It's good to have a losing mentality.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I'd rather rip the Band-Aid, and this is relevant, I think, to the NFL conversation. I'd rather just say, you know what, I'm not going to be like the Steelers, who we're going to get to next, and be 10-7 every year. I'd rather get really bad so you could get really good. And right now, the Knicks, I think they tried to get really good, but I don't think it's working.
Well, maybe, but to be honest, though, you have to be, as the Jerry Jones terrible quote is, you got to be around the rim. You can't go from I'm gonna be one of the worst
Jerry
teams.
Jones?
No, you can't be at ground zero and then say, all right, next year we're gonna be at a championship. So you got to be close, right? What do you mean no?
I mean, the Sixers have been around the rim for 8 years.
The Denver Nuggets were around the rim. The Bucks were around the rim. The Celtics were around the rim. Okay, well, like.
But the Knicks,
you just told me last night Jason Tatum is not that guy.
The Celtics were in the finals. The Nuggets were the number 1 seed for 3 straight years. I don't think the Knicks are where those teams were. They're really around the rim. The Knicks are a little bit below the rim, like where I play. I mean, the Celtics were, they had already made the finals. The Knicks are
The Knicks are in the lane.
Behind. Right, but the Nuggets hadn't made the finals before they won.
Yeah, but they had been.
Neither did the Bucks.
They had been the number 1 seed.
What about the Bucks?
They had multiple time MVPs. I think those teams were a little ahead of the Knicks. Is that fair to say?
That's fair for sure. But my point is that I just don't think that if you're a team, you don't want to. And trust me, I lived there. And you lived there with the process. You don't want to be in a situation where you're just 10 years of terrible play, hoping that some guy just shows up.
That's why I got hired here. Because Spike Eskin, our former boss, got famous. Yes, I'm a Sam Hinkie acolyte.
Well, it got you some employment. I would like it too if that's the case.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't be. It's not something good for a basketball fan. No basketball fan look at that and say, "Oh, great, we got Ben Simmons." That's awesome.
Do you think the Sixers fans would rather lose in the second round with Paul George and Joel Embiid, or just see those guys go away and
they're not going away, Pearl. They're signed long term. I think your delusion about the Sixers situation is what I don't understand. Is okay, yes, you have a 7% chance to get someone who may be a generational player.
10.5. Okay,
10.5. Great.
Don't take 3 points.
There's a 100% chance. There's a 100% chance that Joel Embiid's injured bad knee will be under contract next year. Okay. There's a 100% chance that Paul George is going to be under contract. So those guys aren't going away. They're still there.
You quoted Jerry Jones to make your case, not to make fun of him. What's going on here?
I'm being real.
You're like Jerry Jones says, you got to be around the rim. We all killed him for that quote. It made no sense.
We got to put a poll up. Would you rather be in a situation where your team is destined to be in a tank?
Yeah.
Or would you rather be a team that is below title contention? I don't know how we want to describe it, but you could do the poll however you want to.
Let's shift this conversation to the NFL. And Bogusch, can you hang out for a second? Because this is relevant to your team, the New York Giants, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is a question that is staring the Pittsburgh Steelers right in the face. Do you want to be perennially good but not awesome? I know the NFL is different than the NBA but generally it's the same philosophy. You got to get a high draft pick to get a star or get a quarterback. Well, let's get into that next because I think that you have to rip the Band-Aid at some point. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Maggie is taking a much-deserved break. EJ Stewart is sitting in the big chair. We came upon an interesting debate in the last segment. Would you rather be really bad and therefore at the top of a draft in the NFL or NBA? Or would you rather be perennially good with no chance of winning a championship or little chance, kind of in limbo? I think limbo is the worst place to be in the NBA, and now it's developing to be a bad place to be in the NFL. I think you got to get really bad. You got to get your quarterback. And what do you have to do in the NBA? You have to find a generational star. You have to find your Luka. Hopefully you don't give him away. You have to find your Joker. You have to find your Giannis. So I think there is a philosophy to get really bad in the NBA. I have to admit I was okay with the process in Philadelphia. I know it's not very popular. I think, EJ, you're on the opposite side of this. You want to be good. You're not willing to totally tank.
I don't think you can perennially tank is the difference. Because look at the teams we're talking about at the top three. Let's stay to the NFL, right? Titans, Browns, and Giants. Now, Titans are kind of new to this since they fired Mike Vrabel, but they have been terrible for 3 years now.
Right.
And now the Giants and the Browns have been terrible for pretty much their existence since the expansion, and the Giants have been terrible for 10 years. So to me, what you see is teams that have kind of taken this philosophy of, okay, well, we're losing, but don't worry, our savior is coming. That hasn't worked for those teams. These teams being at the top of the draft is not surprising. Now, if you're the Steelers or you're one of these teams that can't crack through, yes, it's frustrating, but I would look at some of these teams that have gone on kind of quote-unquote Cinderella runs, like the Niners when they won 10 games and went to the Super Bowl, or the Commanders last year, and say, you know what? Those teams, like, they just
the
got
Commanders
in.
got bad. They got to the 2 pick. So
they did, but but I wouldn't sit there, though, and say, okay, they had to lose for like 20 years for that to happen. Like
they did.
Right, but like those 20 years worth it. The Steelers were going to AFC Championship games. The Steelers may have won a Super Bowl during that time where the Commanders hadn't gone. They definitely did since they'd gone to the Conference Championship game. So, like, the Steelers have had a lot of success in that time where the Commanders were losing for 25, 30
But the
years.
Steelers are too well coached. They can't bottom out.
I know, it's terrible.
They can't bottom and
I wouldn't want to be either situation, to be clear. I want to be the Chiefs. I want to be your Eagles. That's the best situation.
So Andrew Bogusch is here as a New York Giants fan. I know you get mad, but I bring that up all the time.
Yeah.
Because I feel superior to you.
Yeah.
You guys are kind of screwed because you're bad, but you're not bad enough to get the number 1 or 2 pick. And last year you missed out on Drake May and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Both 2 quarterbacks that the franchise obviously wanted badly. I think you still should have taken a quarterback last year. Even when you took Daniel Jones, that was not the right spot to be in. The one time they got the number 1 pick, it resulted in 2 Super Bowls. Eli Manning. And it seems like the same thing is happening this year, where they just missing the really good quarterback in Cam Ward because they tried, and I think they tried to trade up to get him, but now they're at 3 in an awkward spot once again.
Well, I would argue that they are bad enough to have the number 1 pick, and they keep forgetting that and winning an extra game or 2 thanks to Tommy DeVito and messing up the last 2+ seasons. Like, this should be over now. But to your original point, you need to be bad for 1 year.
Yes, if you could do a quick bad, then you're in good shape.
I mean, the Spurs did this. The Spurs tried to live in the middle, and it didn't work, and they finally got smart, and then they ended up with Wemby. Now, you might not end up with your Wemby, but you got at some point, you have to go down to the studs.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs got lucky. David Robinson got hurt, and they got Tim Duncan as the number 1 pick. That is the best possible scenario. Same thing happened with the Colts. Peyton Manning got hurt. Andrew Luck came in, and they have 10 more years of playoffs.
But the problem with that is what happens is you're beholden to whoever the player is in that year, right? Like, we're talking about generational guys, Tim Duncan, Wembanyama, Jaden Daniels. Like, what if those guys aren't there? Like, a lot of people don't think there's a Jaden Daniels in this draft. So if you're a team that say, we're going to tank and hope things go well, and then you sit there and you're like, these are my options, where is my generational guy? Well, then what was the point of all this?
Well, and the point is just to have the power of picking the guy that you think is best, and it's unquestioned. Like you have the full power of the entire draft. And like the Giants might have been in this spot and went, we want Abdul Carter over anybody else, and you have to deal with that. But at least they got the guy that they wanted 100%.
But it doesn't feel like they have a plan at quarterback unless that plan could be Arch Manning next year.
No, it's not.
Which is, to me, a very loose plan because so much has to happen, and they'll probably win a late season game and get themselves out of the number 1 pick. All right. We are going to solve the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation next. Maggie Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Maggie Perloff Show. Maggie is out Parts unknown, taking a little break, much deserved. EJ Stewart is in, which I'm really enjoying because EJ Stewart, executive producer of the Maggie Perloff Show, massive Knicks fan, and I just was texting him last night, enjoying the Knicks loss. He's very sensitive. You admit that is your one sensitive area. There's two, the New York Knicks and the New York Jets.
I don't think I'm sensitive. I think I just curse with knowledge, as Dano said. so because I know this team in and out and because I've seen the history of this team, I feel like I oftentimes have to talk to people who don't, so then it becomes frustrating.
I'm not sure what you mean. It's been 50 years since they won a title. What is there to know?
I mean, there's things to know, like, the fact that they're still in a better position than a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference, that, it's the thing is, and I always say this. I always say this to everybody. There's nothing really you can say about my team that I wouldn't already say. So this idea that I'm sensitive, I would push back on, because most people will say, oh, your coach can't get past the second round. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't have him. Your team keeps falling short. Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. Like, these are things I would say about my own team. So
Shaq came out last night, and I think it was Shaq said he's worried the Knicks aren't going to get out of the first round.
Well, he said they would, not worried. He said they're going to lose in the first round.
And you said what?
It's stupid.
That sounds sensitive to me.
No, I think it's a dumb take, because I think, again, my problem is, if you're going to make a take that has no downside, because you're talking about a team that you don't think is going to win a title. So you're saying, all right, if they win a title, if they win in the second or first round, and I say, okay, we won in the first round, all you guys doubted us, it's going to be, well, you should have won in the first round, and, well, you should have did this and that. Like, it's not, like, the goalpost moving is what bothers me.
That's not really a take. It's more of a prediction. But, and I think there's a difference. Similar situation, Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Let's get to the Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have been winning, just like the Knicks, playoffs, but nothing else. So they are stuck. Now there are reports and rumors in NFL draft circles that Shedeur Sanders could be falling. I think earlier in the draft process, a lot of people had him going number 2 to Cleveland or number 3 to the New York Giants. Adam Schefter comes out last week and says it's becoming more and more unlikely that he will go 2 or 3. He has his pro day workout in Colorado, goes very well. There's some more buzz. Okay, maybe the Giants will look at him. Las Vegas sets the over-under 8.5 for draft position for Shedeur Sanders. And now 8.5 is very specific because the New Orleans Saints sit at 9. They have Derek Carr for one more year, but need a quarterback of the future.
Right.
If he falls past the Giants at 3, past the Raiders at 6, past the Jets at 7, then I think there's a bit of a backstop with the Saints. The Saints, for whatever reason, because they have Derek Carr, they have a lot of needs. There are a lot of players they probably could pick at number 9. If they don't take Shedeur, he could fall. And now it's becoming at least an option that he falls to 21 and the Pittsburgh Steelers. A, EJ, do you think that's possible? And B, would you like that fit?
I don't love it. Here's why. I feel like if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you have an option to get Shedeur Sanders, whether it's trading up or he falls to you, why the hell are we doing this Aaron Rodgers thing? To me, the Steelers have shown that they're not in a position to win a championship, right? And taking Aaron Rodgers is basically a last resort for them. They feel like we're going to throw a Hail Mary at a guy who's 41 years old and hope that he can turn back the clock, and with our team and our system, he can turn us into a champion. The idea that they're going to beat the Bills and the Chiefs seems like a fairy tale. But okay, that's their goal. Well, to me, I would prefer to draft Shedeur Sanders. Don't have to worry about an Aaron Rodgers situation, the mess of all that. I've seen Aaron Rodgers try to develop a young quarterback, and Zach Wilson, that was a disaster, so he's not a great mentor.
Well, what about Jordan Love? I totally disagree with that.
Well, Jordan Love was good when Aaron Rodgers left the building, and Jordan Love struggled the first half of the season.
He wasn't on the field when Aaron Rodgers was in the building.
No, but my point, though, is that when the first half of the season in his first year in Green Bay, he was not good.
Well,
it wasn't until the Gutekunst basically said last 6 games they were evaluating, they wanted to keep Jordan Love. So no, that was the Packers coaching staff saying, hey, run our system and I promise you will get the reward. And he started running the Packers system, and that's why they were good. It wasn't because Aaron Rodgers taught him anything.
But certainly Aaron Rodgers did not stunt the career of Jordan Love. You can't argue that.
I'm not saying he stunted it. But you're wanting to give him credit, and I'm saying
yes, I do give him credit. I think he
why?
Because he was
plays nothing
there
like
for
Aaron
2
Rodgers.
years with him, and he helped him become a good, confident quarterback.
Then why
And-
was he
and
so
they
bad
did-
the first 10 games of his first year
Because
starting?
it was the first 10 games of his starting. I mean, he obviously had the fundamentals. in the
So you're
base.
going to give Aaron Rodgers more credit for Jordan Love's success in the last 6 games of a season than the coaching staff of the Packers? Doesn't make
I
sense.
don't even get the. I mean, Rodgers was gone. What difference does it make whether first
No,
half
my
or
point.
second half?
No, it goes back to the point with the Steelers. Is that I don't think that there's a through line that Aaron Rodgers being around a young quarterback is going to automatically assume that he's going to be great.
But you said it was going to be bad and it's going to implode the whole situation.
I don't think it's the best fit because my thing is to me, I would want to get Shedeur out there. I want to get him the reps. I want to get him. I don't think that Shedeur Sanders has to start. Excuse me, have to come off the bench his first year. I don't look at him as that kind of quarterback.
But I mean, I think you could make. First of all, I somewhat disagree. I think Shedeur could definitely use a year on the bench because he's coming out of a crazy situation in Colorado where he has no O line and he's running around like crazy. I think a lot of quarterbacks could use that rest year. There's nothing wrong with that. Aaron Rodgers is just a bridge quarterback. If his name wasn't Aaron Rodgers and it was something else, you'd be fine with that. You'd be fine with a team with a 41-year-old quarterback then drafting a first-round pick and having the first-round pick sit for 1 year. Because that's what we got. We got 1 year with Aaron Rodgers.
what happens?
That's not a bad situation. I think you're just scarred by the Jets situation, and you think there's too much extra stuff with Aaron Rodgers.
But
if it was a normal bridge quarterback, wouldn't that make sense?
But we can't just exclude what happened with the Jets. That is the recent history with Aaron Rodgers, so we have to evaluate it fairly. And what happened this season when Aaron Rodgers was struggling? We had the owner reportedly go to the coaching staff and say, hey, maybe we need to bench this guy because he's not healthy, he's not playing well, and
Right.
it's not helpful to the team.
Okay.
Imagine that situation in Pittsburgh where maybe Rodgers comes in, he takes a bad hit in preseason or bad hit in the first few games of the season, and he's limping around, and he's not looking good.
Right.
Do you really think a quarterback controversy is exactly what the Steelers need? Because we had a controversy potentially with Tyrod Taylor. That was when the Jets didn't even have an option to go back to another quarterback. If the Steelers are in a situation where it's Shedeur or Aaron Rodgers, you think Aaron Rodgers is handling that well? An idea that he may be benched for a rookie quarterback? Of course not.
Well, here's the thing. You have a superpower. You have head coach Mike Tomlin. And I think Tomlin, by the way, makes promises and keeps them. He told Russell Wilson, you're going to start, and then he put him in, even though Justin Fields was doing okay last year. I think Tomlin would stick with Rodgers because I think if he brings in Rodgers, he's going to promise him you get the year. And as long as he can stand upright, I think there is not going to be controversy. I think it's going to be Rodgers, and then Shedeur would take a rest year. Now,
Do you think Coach Prime is going to be quiet if Aaron Rodgers is 4-6 and the Steelers are clinging to trying to make the playoffs and his son is sitting down? You think you don't get a Deion Sanders quote being like, "Hey man, I know my son would win some of those games."
It's the most stable team in the NFL. It is,
and you're bringing in two of the most unstable elements.
You survived Antonio Brown.
They didn't survive it. They had to get him out of there. What are you talking about?
But the franchise was not burned down by Antonio Brown being there.
They have gotten worse since Antonio Brown left.
Yeah,
they're not as good a team.
But they haven't had a losing record. I'm saying he's not burned down the house. They survived lots of crazy people in that building.
You keep saying survived, but what does that mean, right?
They kept winning.
But we're having a conversation with the Steelers about winning a Super Bowl or building something for the future.
Right.
That is something that did not happen after Antonio Brown left. They got worse, and they won enough games to maybe make the playoffs or have a winning record, but they did not get better. They did not come closer to winning a championship. So my point being is that if you add two unproven or kind of like crazy elements in Aaron Rodgers and potentially Deion Sanders into the mix, and if things don't go well, which for Aaron Rodgers the last 3 years, it did not go well. What do you think is going to happen in that environment? I don't think even Mike Tomlin can handle that situation.
But the original question was, should they draft Shedeur? And I say absolutely yes, because the reason they can't get over this hump is because they haven't been able to get a young quarterback. So they took a shot with Kenny Pickett. Made a lot of sense to me. He was incredibly productive at Pitt. Mm-hmm. I think he had first-round pick written all over it to me. I know he had small hands.
Yeah.
People are now saying that was a stupid pick because he was in the building. I got it at the time. I think they definitely need to take a shot here. If Shedeur falls, they have to take him because they haven't. Shedeur to me is a top 10 talent. I think he's got baggage. I think he's got Deion with him, and I think a lot of coaches and GMs don't want to bring in Deion. But I think that Pittsburgh is an anomaly because they have Mike Tomlin, and Mike Tomlin is so well established. He's been there forever. So you get Shedeur. I would do it. I would go ahead and do it. What do you have to lose? I mean, you've been 10-7 for the better part of 4 years. There's nothing to lose here.
I think you're giving Mike Tomlin way too much credit because you're saying that he's had these crazy elements. but they haven't won with these crazy elements.
James Harrison won him a Super Bowl.
No, that's
crazy as all get
That's
out.
ancient history. We might as well. That might have been in black and white. I'm talking about recent history, right? He hasn't been able to handle George Pickens. He hasn't been able to handle Claypool. He hasn't been able to handle Antonio Brown. There's a lot of players that have ruined Steelers seasons with their antics. And Mike Tomlin, yes, they have won. But the Steelers don't care about winning 10 games or 9 games. They don't care about that. They want to win playoff games. And this idea that Mike Tomlin has survived, it's like, well, they want to do more than survive. They want to thrive.
I understand. Well, how do you thrive in the NFL?
I think you got to rebuild.
And how do you do that?
You gotta get a quarterback, but that's why is Aaron Rodgers here? You're not rebuilding if Aaron Rodgers is there.
You're doing 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. Say it was Joe Flacco or some other 4-year, would you be okay with, or Russell Wilson? Would you be okay if Russell Wilson was there?
Yes. Know why?
Because he's a bridge quarterback.
No, I'd be okay with that because I feel like if I have to bench Russell Wilson or Joe Flacco, I can do that with zero backlash. No fan's gonna sit there and say Russell Wilson should be playing or have the quarterback, whether it's Russ or the other guy or Joe Flacco, make us think about it. Aaron Rodgers is gonna go on Pat McAfee the next day and be like, "What's going on here?"
Fair point, but this is the time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take a gigantic swing. 2 of them. This is why not? What could possibly? What's the downside?
The downside is Aaron Rodgers comes in and blows up your building.
And
what you just talked about, the biggest strength of the Steelers.
You just said they need to rebuild.
You said the biggest strength of the Steelers is their stability. So if you're saying that, what's the worst that can happen? I'm saying their stability could be broken. Then that's a big issue.
It's not an issue because if it all blows up, then they get to rebuild. Honestly, I think a lot of people think it'd be good to rebuild. Bottom line, do you draft Shedeur Sanders?
I would take him, but I'd be very frustrated that they're still trying to sign Rodgers. I don't understand that.
Okay.
You don't need him.
I would sign Aaron Rodgers. I mean, come on. Don't you want to see Aaron Rodgers in a Steelers uniform? What's the matter with you? Why are you taking this away from us? This would be so entertaining. Steelers are going to be in all these primetime games.
You know why I'm not crazy about it? Yeah. Because I'd say it's a lot. And we talked about this with Tiger Woods. We talked about this with other people. Yeah. I know on the show I get painted as the Rodgers hater and whatever. I always say Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. He throws the football in a way that I've never seen, except maybe Dan Marino, who I didn't get to watch. I don't like seeing guys. It's true. It's why I've said it's why I wanted just to get him. I don't understand why people like seeing guys at the end who clearly are past their prime. I like watching Aaron Rodgers when he was with the Packers. I liked watching those games. Whether I was rooting for him or against him, he was talented. There was an intrigue. It was like he may do something special. I've seen now him unfortunately get hurt, and I'm not trying to bring that up. Yeah. It's like a thing. It's just reality. He's 40 years old. You're more likely to get hurt as you get older. I saw him get hurt, then I saw him play a season. He looked terrible. So if I'm talking about watching Aaron Rodgers play, I don't want to see him in a Steelers uniform. I don't want this to be Johnny Unitas playing for the Chargers or Joe Namath playing for the Rams. Those were not good experiences.
Yeah, was Tom Brady good at the end with the Bucs?
Tom Brady is an anomaly.
Was Brett Favre good at the end with the Vikings?
Right, anomaly. 2 guys. This idea that these 38, 39-year-old quarterbacks.
Who is Aaron Rodgers similar to? Tom Brady and Brett Favre.
Why is he not similar to any other Hall of Fame quarterback that struggles in their last stops?
Give me reason why. Because the league has changed. You can't hit a quarterback, so you can play to your 45. That's just the way it is now. And Rodgers could spin it last year. He made some beautiful throws. He was just limping for the first half of the season. And I know you don't buy these numbers, but he had 100 rating in 5 out of his last 7 games. I mean, his number. I'm exaggerating a little bit. His numbers were great at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, they were playing some terrible teams. The Jaguars.
And he threw to Devontae every time.
Play against the Jaguars and the quitting Dolphins, you will put up some good numbers.
Yeah.
And to me with Rodgers, it goes beyond numbers, right? It's this idea of you're bringing this guy in to win. It's not about can he throw for 300 yards, 400 yards. I don't care about that.
The Steelers, I mean, this is not. It's a totally different situation than when the Jets signed Aaron Rodgers. The Jets thought they were getting the Super Bowl piece. The Steelers.
What do the Steelers think they're getting?
The Steelers they don't even care. They've been just trying to get a veteran in the building. They basically.
Why didn't they sign all those other veterans then?
Because they're waiting on Rodgers, but it's not an urgent situation.
They're waiting on him because they think that there's a way higher ceiling than those other bridges. So that suggests that they're not just looking for a bridge. They want a guy who they think can win playoff games and win a Super Bowl. I'm telling you that Aaron Rodgers is no longer exists.
So you think that the Aaron Rodgers to the Jets is going to have the same hoopla in Pittsburgh?
What do you mean hoopla?
Like when the Jets, he was the missing piece in New York. It was the number one story. It was a giant celebration.
I agree.
You think him going to Pittsburgh, everyone's going to be like, the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl?
The Steelers are the most storied, one of the most storied organizations in the NFL. If he joins the Pittsburgh Steelers, you had a superstar, supernova star like Aaron Rodgers. That's a massive story. That is massive attention. They will get 1 million national TV games. In some ways, it might be bigger than the Jets.
Do you think everyone's no? Do you think everyone's going to say Super Bowl now? Like when the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, it was a sea change in the NFL. Everyone thought, oh, this is the new dynasty. This is basically a fancy Russell Wilson. I think Aaron Rodgers is a journeyman at this point. And also, we knew Rodgers wanted to go to the Vikings. He didn't even want to go to Pittsburgh. He's been desperately looking for somewhere else to go.
But the Steelers are better than the Jets. The Steelers last year made the playoffs. They won 10 games. No. The Jets were
the Jets had Garrett Wilson and Sauce. They just,
right. And they just won 5 games this year. The year before that, they won 7.
The Steelers were not better where the Jets were coming off a season where there was all this promise. They were
they won 7 games. What are you talking about?
They were the Bucs before Tom Brady got there. They had all of these young players. Come on. You don't think that there was excitement about the Jets?
No,
it's not going to be that way with the Steelers. It's not going to be that way with the Steelers.
I don't know how you could look at the Jets situation. They had young, promising talent, sure.
Yeah.
But the Pittsburgh Steelers have guys who will wear gold jackets currently playing on their team.
Is anyone going to pick this? Any expert on ESPN
or
NFL Network going to pick the Steelers?
You know why they're not going to pick them? Because they know Aaron Rodgers is washed.
No.
That's why. No, that is why.
Nobody thinks that this team, they've watched this team play for the last 5 years. They understand that Arthur Smith is not an elite offensive coordinator. They understand that Mike Tomlin does not want his offense to be unleashed. They understand that even though they added DK Metcalf, this is still not a star-studded offense. They understand that TJ Watt, once he gets hurt, the entire team folds. Like, everyone knows what the Steelers are.
That's a lot of ifs in terms of whether or not the Steelers can actually win.
Then nobody's picking. I'm telling you right now, you are not going to see the Steelers any other quarterback.
I think you're suggesting that as if it's somehow only a judgment on the Steelers. We have a situation where they will be replacing quarterback. They will be replacing Russell Wilson.
If Aaron Rodgers went to Minnesota,
someone would be picking them to win the Super Bowl.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly, because they are a loaded team. Nobody's picking the Steelers. They're not loaded like the Vikings. I think if Aaron Rodgers went to Minnesota, a lot of people would think they're a Super Bowl team.
Right, but it's not because of him. That's my point.
I'm saying the same thing. Like, there's not a lot of hype around him right now. He's not this prized possession. I think the Steelers are settling with Aaron Rodgers.
The Steelers clearly think that he is because
they don't. They're settling with this guy.
Then why are they waiting around for him?
Because there's no other option. What was their other option?
There were options.
Give me
Perloff. They could have brought back Russell Wilson. They could have brought back Justin Fields. They could have brought back James. They could have brought James Winston in.
James Winston just signed a 2-year, $8 million deal.
They could have brought Joe Flacco in.
Joe Flacco's on his couch.
But
these are not options.
Pearl, you cannot have it both ways. You cannot say the Steelers think nothing of Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not saying nothing.
But also that they had to have him over other journeymen. Either Rodgers is a journeyman who can't improve their win total, or he's a guy that improves their ceiling. It's either one or the other.
He's the best journeyman of that group. A terrible group that you just mentioned. I mean, if you really
what
think
about Geno Smith? What about Sam Darnold? What about those guys? Those guys are
not going to trade their future. They're not signing an old guy for 4 years.
Those guys aren't old. Sam Darnold's not old.
Sam
Darnold's not old.
Yeah, they weren't going to pay up for Sam Darnold.
Wait, so you can't. So you're okay with signing? You're okay with signing Aaron Rodgers
for 1 year, right? There's no long-term downside.
He's 41 years old, but you don't want to trade for a 35-year-old guy who played better?
No, I'm not committing. If I'm the Steelers, I'm not committing all that money to Geno.
Okay, I don't agree. I just feel like if you're in a situation, but I think again, it stresses the point that clearly they think there's something special with Aaron Rodgers. And if they had other options, you're saying you don't agree with them. That's fine. You cannot say there were not other options. They were. You could have had Sam Darnold. You could have had Geno Smith. You could have had all those other journeyman quarterbacks. You still could go after Kirk Cousins. They're not doing that either. They're not doing that because they think Aaron Rodgers is a difference maker, and I'm telling you, he's not.
I think that they think he's the best journeyman available. I don't think they think he's a game changer.
What are the expectations of the Steelers draft him? I mean, they sign him. What do you think they should? What should be their internal expectations?
Their win total goes from 8.5, which it is right now, to 9.5.
Should they win a playoff game?
No.
Then why are you doing this?
Because it gives you. It's a swing. It's a swing. I mean, you got to take some swings right now. Like all those other guys are serviceable. They need to take a big uppercut because the other thing too, Aaron Rodgers will be gone in a year. If it fails, then hey, at least finally we get to rebuild a little bit. If you sign Sam Darnold for 3 years, then you're stuck with Sam Darnold and you're still in limbo. Yeah, but you think of Aaron Rodgers running out with the Jets and the American flag. Do you think there's going to be any of that energy if he signs with the Steelers? I think you're nuts if you think it's going to be a recreation of that.
I would almost guarantee you that if Rodgers signs with the Steelers, they will have one of the first 2 or 3 national TV games. It could be the first one because they could play the Jets this season.
The Steelers are so popular with Mason Rudolph; they'll get 4 primetime games. So it's the Steelers, but it's not going to be. Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets was a huge, huge event. And everybody was so psyched to see him. And it was amazing. He's 41 now, coming off an Achilles.
You know the numbers Pat McAfee's going to do if Rodgers walks out there WWE style at a Pittsburgh show and that crowd erupts. I hope he clipped this because I that day when that happens, if it does happen, I don't want to hear, well, we all knew this is not going to be a huge deal, because you're saying it's not going to be a huge deal. That's going to be a massive deal.
Again, how many people picked the Jets to go to the Super Bowl because of Aaron Rodgers?
But it was dumb. It didn't work. Like, you keep saying that, but my thing is,
dumb. But you knew at the time because you were talking like you did.
I thought the Jets were going to go to.
Of course, it was not. It was not dumb. You had a multi-time MVP coming to a young, talented roster. There's nothing dumb about that.
I think the difference between you and I is I feel like stuff that happens on the field and what we see informs my opinion on the future and of what we saw then. Yeah. We thought Aaron Rodgers was something different. We didn't think he was going to get hurt. We didn't think he was as washed when he came back. So, yes, at that time, it informed people to think that they could win a Super Bowl. Now we know who he is.
Yes, he tore his Achilles tendon.
Which is why it doesn't make sense to bring him in, because it doesn't raise the total that much.
All right, we need to take a break. But, by the way, our friend Dr. Rock Positano always says, watch out for Rodgers in year 2, because guys in their second year off an Achilles, he was not confident in that leg, so maybe he gets healthier. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's the downside here? What are we going to be, 10-7 again? I mean, stop. If you're a Steelers fan, call in, talk some sense into EJ, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. All right, EJ and I clearly not seeing eye to eye on that topic.
Surprise.
I got to tell you, the next topic we see even less eye to eye on. We were fighting for about an hour on the phone last night about this singular future superstar. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Maggie's out. EJ is sitting in for her today. We just had a heated debate about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Should they sign Aaron Rodgers? EJ says basically no, because it has a high risk of blowing up the franchise. I say why not? They've been in limbo forever. If it does blow them up, then that will force a rebuild. And I still hold out a glimmer of hope for the future Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, I just can't see it. And it may sound like it's because of sour grapes for the Jets, but you just have to be realistic, and you have to go what you saw. He could have been playing on any team, and the facts are the facts, that he struggled with health, he struggled with consistency. And if you're talking about bringing that guy and saying we're going to go and try to compete with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, I just think it's a fantasy to think that you're going to be able to beat those guys in the playoffs, which is what their goal is. They don't want to go to the playoffs and just lose a game or win 9 games. That's not their goal.
But a lot of people think it's the Jets. You know, they've not had success with a lot of good quarterbacks. Geno turned out to be good. Sam Darnold turned out to be good. Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre didn't have success there. He got hurt just like Aaron Rodgers. But generally, I think a lot of people look at the franchise and say the Steelers are more stable. Let's go to Brandon in Alabama. Brandon, I understand you're a Steelers fan. Do you want Aaron Rodgers on your team?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You with EJ?
Yes. Let me tell you why. He destroyed New York. He destroyed them. He got the coaches fired. He was a crybaby for Adams, and when he got them, they did absolutely nothing. I felt like Pittsburgh made a mistake by letting Justin Fields go. Russell Wilson, I agree, we probably didn't need to re-sign him, because after maybe the 10th game of the season, our offense kind of stalled out. Justin Fields gave us another running option with him being at quarterback, and he's 26 years old. You're trying to sign a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, that's pointless. It's pointless.
Brandon, if your team traded up from 21 to, say, 12 and drafted Shedeur Sanders, would you be happy?
Oh, absolutely. 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 And I'm not saying that just because he's primetime son. I'm saying it because he's a proven winner. He won in HBCU, and now he won in Colorado. Like, he's a winner. He's a winner. If you watch him, he goes through all his progressions before he takes off a run or do anything with the ball.
I don't know, Brandon. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. He does go through his progressions, but he takes off and he starts scrambling around a lot. Will you give me that? He escapes out of the back of the pocket and tries to he never gives up on a play. I'll give you, he does not throw the ball out of bounds. You know what I mean? He holds on the ball forever trying to find something downfield.
I agree with you, but what NFL quarterback doesn't do that now? Look at Lamar Jackson. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Look at Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah.
So I would love a quarterback that never gives up on the play. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger never gave up on the play in his younger years, and now, I mean, his older years, he stood in the pocket a lot and he took a lot of sacks. So why not?
No, I totally understand what you're saying. Thanks for the call, Brandon. I heard an interesting comp, actually, and I hope I'm not quoting you back to you.
Okay.
Brock Purdy last year with San Francisco. Shedeur played a lot like that in Colorado. Brock Purdy, because the line fell apart, was running around like crazy in the pocket. And there are a lot of similarities. I think that's a good player comp for Shedeur.
I like that. I think.
Yeah, you get
similar
Kirk
size
Cousins
too. I feel like they're both like 6'2", right?
I think that in my sense, Shedeur's a little taller. Shedeur may weighed in at 6'1.5". I kind of, in my mind, Brock Purdy's a real 6 foot, but actually I don't even know. And I think that they have similar skill sets, and that's a good thing for Shedeur. The problem is he's got to go to the right team. To me, Shedeur is system dependent. He's got to have the right offensive coach. If I'm Dion and I'm trying to steer him, I would say Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. I mean, Shedeur feels very good for that system. I don't mind Brian Dable in New York. Again, my problem in Pittsburgh, I don't get Arthur Smith. I don't totally understand. If I'm Dion and you're sending him there, that is not a pass-friendly offense. They want to hand the ball off. They're just too conservative, so we'll see how that works. But I think Shedeur could be great in the right system.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, and I agree. I think that's the one point we maybe agree on the most is that Arthur Smith is the part that worries me about all of this, and what he will do, whether it's with Aaron Rodgers or with Shedeur Sanders. There was reporting that Aaron Rodgers was supportive of Arthur Smith becoming the Jets' offensive coordinator, and they didn't go that way for various reasons. But apparently Rodgers merely respects him, and Shedeur Sanders, I think he's a veteran coach, and I think that maybe Dion will be okay with that. But we've seen the proof in the pudding with him, right? Like we know what kind of offenses he produces, and they're not that exciting.
Not at all. There was a funny tweet. I talked about this last week. I still laugh at it. Of Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to DK Metcalf. They worked out in L.A. together. And it's this beautiful pass. It doesn't mean anything. It's Instagram. It's slow-mo. But somebody had the comment, Rodgers must have called an audible on that play because Arthur Smith clearly wanted to hand off to Jalen Warren. That's the problem. I hate offensive coordinators who call runs on first and second down all game long. I'm looking at you, Bobby Slowick, now fired in Houston. Generally, I just worry that you need to put Aaron Rodgers in a good position at this age to have easy pass plays. That means a lot of first down passing. And I don't know if Arthur Smith wants to do that. I can't imagine. And then you add Arthur Smith never feeds his receivers. You have DK Metcalf and George Pickens. So let's not forget that factor.
But this is why this is all combustible to me, which is why I look at this situation and I'm like, Metcalf, Pickens, then you want to add Shedeur Sanders and Dion, and then add Aaron Rodgers. Like you're asking Mike Tomlin to be a miracle worker when it comes to putting a locker room together. Like I know he's a very respected coach, but that's a lot of personality.
No, you're right. And he has not. He's been good the last 10 years, but hasn't been able to take him over the top.
Right.
I want to hear from you, Steelers fans. 888-710-4ISN. 888-710-4476. Do you want Aaron Rodgers? Do you want Shedeur Sanders? Are you scared of a combo of both those guys? I mean, come on, content-wise, it'd be great. All right, Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines.
Guys, the Lakers allowed 80 first-half points in OKC last night, but then held the Thunder to just 17 in the third, leading to a one-point game in the fourth when this happened.
Luka throws up an 8-footer, good, and the Lakers lead 108-107.
Oh, Luka just got thrown out.
Why?
He was talking trash to a fan, and the referee thought he was talking to him.
Oh, this is an absolutely horrible decision by JT Orr, by the official. Absolutely horrible.
Tell us how you really feel. John Ireland on Lakers radio. Luka, LeBron, the rest of the Lakers on the floor immediately made the same point that Luka was talking to a fan, not ref JT Orr. But Luka's shown the door for his second tee. J.J. Redick's team outscored 29-12 over the final 8 minutes of this game, all after Luka left.
It was a great game that, unfortunately, didn't get to sort of finish out the way that I think every basketball fan would want because of, some decision-making on some individuals' parts.
Is it better to curse out a fan than curse out the official? I was actually wondering about that.
I mean, when it comes to a technical foul, yes, it should be. Like, I don't think you should be teed up for cursing out a fan.
I assume he was cursing. I hope so.
Yeah, or maybe he said it in Slovenian. Maybe a referee knows Slovenian. One of my favorite things about all announcers is when they go after an umpire or a ref by name. I was watching a clip, I was watching a clip from the
yeah.
Rocky game a couple days ago, and CB Bucknor was having one of the worst home plate games I've seen in a long time.
CB Bucknor, of course.
Yeah, he's one of the worst in Major League Baseball.
Awful.
And the announcer is like, well, that's CB Bucknor. Like, he's the guy that called that strike. I'm like, what are you trying to put this guy on a hit list? Like, what are you?
Yeah.
I know, that's what they are doing, but it's just, that always amuses me. But do you feel like this is like fool's gold for the Thunder that they won this game?
Yeah, I was worried about the Thunder. The Lakers were hanging around. I just envisioned them playing the playoffs. The Thunder are young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they can actually put the hammer on this team. They did last night, but when Luka went out, it was over.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried because, can I just say it? I'm not sure I want to see the Lakers get to the finals. I feel like the LeBron camp will be a little obnoxious if that happens.
Oh, this is a personal thing.
Yeah, and I say that out of respect for the Lakers because I think they're a real threat here. Watching the Thunder last night, in a 7-game series, are they mature enough to really knock that team out?
We're going to have it's a great question. And I think in some ways, Luka getting tossed was the best thing that happened for the Thunder because I think they needed that mental thing. Like, I think they could say, okay, we beat the Lakers, like, we're good now because they got throttled in the game before. And this first quarter, they gave up almost like 50 points. Like, the Thunder, one of their biggest strengths has been they had the best defense in the NBA, and the Lakers have gone demolition derby on them in 2 games in a row. Now, maybe it's the Thunder just trying to get to the finish line of a regular season, but that's not a great sign. So I think that they could say they can point to a W, even if there's a little asterisk by it. I think that will help them. But I agree. I've been saying since pretty much Luka trade happened that I think this changes the landscape for the Lakers. I was first skeptical, but I saw a couple of games and I said, this may be a team we got to worry about in the playoffs.
Well, and you watch the Thunder a lot. Let me ask you a question. Yeah. If you really clamp down on SGA in the playoffs, which is what's going to happen, the game slows down, who steps up and hits the big shot for the Thunder?
It's got to be Jalen Williams. And he had a great game last night. And that's going to be the question is J-Dub, who's also a very young player. I think he's 22, 23. Like, is he ready for that
23.
kind of moment? He's an all-star. He's had a phenomenal season. He's one of the best draft picks, I feel like, in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, from the way they got him. But, do they have a true number 2 on a championship team is the question mark. I love J-Dub, but he is a young player, so that's going to be a big question.
And the ball ends up in Kason Wallace's hands a lot. He's 21.
Yeah, they got babies on that team. Now, I think what will happen, though, is maybe those guys, yes, they'll be asked to score, and I think Chet Holmgren will be the third option. But what they're going to need is they're going to need like a Lou Dort or a Caruso to be like the big shot maker, the Derek Fisher, the Robert Horry. Like those guys are going to get opportunities where Shea's going to be double teamed. He's got to throw out to somebody. Like those guys have to make shots. They have all season. And Caruso's a champion, so I think adding him was good. Can those other pieces, those more veteran guys, Isaiah Hartenstein, are those guys ready for that moment? Is the question.
Oh, Lou Dort's there, Jay Crowder, right? I mean,
the torture chamber.
Yeah.
Great nickname.
But again, I mean, if you look at the wins, Maggie actually brought up this point. Is there pressure on the Thunder? Is it win a championship or bust? I think that it's hard to say that for a team this young. Although, and I texted Bogusch, I texted EJ last night. I'm like, oh, the Thunder are not going to be able to do this, are they? And then Luka got kicked out, and we were all good.
Well, EJ said, I think yesterday, the Thunder have the pressure, in my mind, to win the West.
Right.
Not the whole thing, but if they don't win the West this year, I think that's the beginning of a disappointment. They can lose in the finals to the Celtics or the Cavs or somebody else.
Or the Knicks.
Sure. But if they don't get there, I think it's fair to say that this year was a disappointment.
Pretty consistent with the NBA. The MVP never wins, right? Mm-hmm. It's been since Steph Curry in, what year was it? Steph Curry's the last MVP to win a title. Yeah. Generally, guys like Giannis and Jokic win MVPs, but still need a year or two to get over that finals hump. And SGA is going to win. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win the MVP.
Can I say something about that? Another EJ random commandment. I feel like that's like one of those, not to poo-poo your stat, but I feel that's one of those like useless stats because I feel like those guys all won, except for Derrick Rose, like won championships. Like in the seasons that they won MVP, they didn't win championships, but they were MVP caliber players that didn't win titles. So,
but my point was MVP
sure.
level players need time to get to that level. Even Jordan did.
Yeah.
The Thunder won this game, by the way, 136-120, maintaining their 2-game lead on the Cavs for the number 1 overall seed. Now 3 games to go. Cleveland wrapped up number 1 in the East last night, 135-113 over the Bulls. That means the Celtics are the 2 seed. They were 119-117 winners in OT at the Garden. Jason Tatum scored 32, including a 3, with 2.9 seconds left to force extra time.
Foul.
I think the Knicks are locked into 3.
No,
not yet. Still,
No.
okay.
Mathematically, no. They needed to win yesterday's game. At last, they didn't. But yep, still technically up for to fall down.
Do you guys were you partly happy though because you still root for Porzingis and he was torching you guys? That's fun to see, right?
What? See the stuff that we deal with. America. You see what we do.
I would rather step on so many shards of glass, broken glass, than root for Kristaps Porzingis.
For the YouTube, I'm wearing a big bandage because I grabbed glass during that game last night.
I would too.
Over that type of Knicks game?
Yeah.
You're in the playoffs already.
But it's our fault because we're Net fans.
We don't know what winning
It's not
is.
your
Exactly.
fault. It's your clueless.
The Suns took a 133-95 home beating from the Warriors. It feels like the Nets have been in the finals more recently than the Knicks. Am I wrong on
I thought
that?
you moved on.
Wow,
Okay.
by 2 years? Okay.
The Suns,
Also,
by the
that's
way,
25 years ago.
are
You mean
now
when the Knicks were the 8 seed and made the finals in a strike-shortened year? Is that what you just referenced?
Oh, you guys referenced the Heat in making the finals as a playing team. Give me a break.
Okay, we need Maggie to regulate this
Well,
conversation.
she's in Mongolia right now.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Bogusch.
The Cincinnati Reds, a second straight shutout in San Francisco, this time winning 1-0. The Astros left standing after 12 in Seattle, 2-1, and the A's have their first win in Sacramento, 10-4 over the Padres. And very quickly, as far as we know, this has never happened before in NHL history.
10 seconds left to Garland to the point. Left point, Hughes long. Wrist shot deflected wide of the goal. Rebound for Hironic in front. They score! It's Pius Suter in the slot with 5.2 seconds left, and they're not dead yet. Suter's got his second goal in the final minute of the third, and it's 5-5.
Okay, so Pius Suter scored twice in the final minute. The Canucks scored 3 times in those last 60 seconds to force OT, where they then beat the Stars 6-5. The Canucks say no team before had erased a 3-goal deficit in the final minute of regulation. That's what they did last night to get this W.
I believe that's pronounced Canucks.
Thank you, Andrew Bogusch. Okay, we got a couple things going on. I see you on the phone lines. Do you want Aaron Rodgers and Shedeur Sanders in the building if you're a Steelers fan together? Of course, we want that. And the YouTube chat, Infinity Sports Radio Network YouTube, they are going off on draft quarterback player comps in the NFL. Is there anything better than that? Give us a call, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Be back. There is a player comp that is going to make you tear your hair out, EJ. That's next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. EJ is sitting in the big chair. Maggie is on a little vacation. A lot going on.
Mongolia.
I don't think so. I think she's somewhere a little warmer, although I don't know the weather in Mongolia
I'm pretty
right
sure
now.
it's warm in the mountains of Mongolia.
Yeah, I don't think Maggie's a Mongolia person. I think she's more of a Four Seasons.
She's becoming a Buddhist. What are you talking about?
Yeah, if Buddhist is staying in a nice hotel with a pool.
In Mongolia,
that's a part of Buddhism.
Call that glamping.
We're having a debate I think Maggie would have enjoyed. What should the Pittsburgh Steelers do? EJ thinks signing Aaron Rodgers, which could be very soon, by the way, and then drafting Shedeur Sanders if he falls is the ultimate recipe for disaster. I get it.
Sounds about right.
But I say it is time to take massive swings if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I take both swings because why not? What do you have to lose? I can't handle 10-7. We do agree on this. 10-7 for the rest of the time is not good. You have to do something different. Let's go to Brad in Oregon, who is a Steelers fan. What do you want them to do at quarterback, Brad?
Well, good show as always, guys. Thanks for taking the call. But being a Steeler fan, I just want a winning team out there on the field year after year. I don't want to be a team that the Giants or the Jets or no matter who they draft or who they trade for, they've got a losing season year after year after year. We got our Super Bowl championships. I don't want to be like Dallas. You got your championship. Where have they been? They've been irrelevant for years and years. They can't make the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a winning team out there, and if we get in the playoffs, that's great. But I want the winning product that's out there. And if it's Aaron Rodgers or if it's Sanders or whoever that it is, I'm happy with that. Being a fan, I want a winning team on the field instead of a team, okay, we're tanking because we want to try to get the number one pick out of it. And for the next few years, you've got a losing product on the field and you haven't accomplished anything.
Brad, I think you might be in the minority, though, because we've heard from a lot of Steelers fans who are getting really tired of being in limbo.
Well, I'm a fan. And I just want to see, a winning team out there. If instead of losing year after year after year after year, like some of these teams do in the NFL, the trades are terrible. I don't blame Aaron Rodgers for what happened in New York. I blame Woody Woodpecker. He's made the terrible decisions year after year after year after year. This guy makes terrible, terrible decisions. He can't keep a coach. He doesn't want this player didn't work out. That trade didn't work out. It's the organization. Same thing with Cleveland. Look at the deal with Watson. They turn around and they come back to bite you. It's the organization. I don't think it's any one particular player. So if they sign Aaron Rodgers, that's great. We have a winning season. We go 10-7 again. I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Brad. There's nothing that makes EJ matter when I give my Jets quarterback stat. That it's and Ryan Botch was already laughing on the other side of the glass, that any quarterback who leaves the Jets, their passer rating automatically goes up 20 points the next season. Or not the next season, but sometime in the future.
Yeah, it's usually distant future, but sure.
Yes. Well, Favre went up 20 immediately.
One guy. Yeah. How many years it took Geno?
How
many years?
A lot
5,
of years.
6?
I had a bunch of guys, so it was Geno, Sam Darnold.
Right, multiple years for Sam Darnold.
Brett Favre. There was another guy who really jumped after he left the Jets. I think Zach Wilson will eventually jump.
Okay.
Yeah. He can't be worse than he was with the Jets. Let's put it that way.
That is true.
He could go 20 points and he still could be in the bottom 5 of
that is
quarterback
very fair.
rating.
I will
so you
agree
got to
with that.
remember this. All right. The YouTube chat, Infinity Sports Radio Network YouTube channel, has, for some reason, a bunch of player comps for NFL draft prospects at quarterback. EJ, let's run through some of these and tell me what you think.
Okay.
Stephen B. says that Jackson Dart equals Bubby Brister. I don't know if you remember Bubby Brister.
Yeah,
people love Bubby Brister.
Yeah, good backup.
I was in Philly when people wanted Bubby Brister to start over Randall Cunningham. It was ridiculous. I don't know. We can probably imagine what was behind that thought. Okay, he also says Jalen Milroe equals Cordell Stewart. Now, that's a real player comp because Jalen Milroe is not a traditional quarterback. I think Jalen Milroe, the NFL's looking at it and saying, is he going to be like Anthony Richardson, where he's a spectacular runner, but he's just not ready to play the quarterback position the way you need to in the NFL. That is out there.
Yeah, and that's why I actually don't mind the Cordell Stewart comparison, because I think Cordell was such an incredible athlete that it made up for some of his deficiencies. Now, it wasn't Super Bowl caliber. That was the problem, but
close.
But it was close, right? It was. So
one time,
right? So if Jalen Milroe, like, you look at him and say, okay, maybe not the greatest accurate quarterback and things like that.
Yeah.
But he's such a great athlete. He steps on the field and he may be the fastest guy on the field. Like, that does change things. That does open up things for your offense. So
yeah,
I like that comparison
in
terms. I like the comparison a lot, actually.
And also, unlike, I go to another guy who's mobile but not nearly as fast. Malik Willis a few years ago was not a developed passer out of Liberty, but I think Jalen Milroe's got a better arm than Malik Willis. Jalen Milroe's got a great deep arm. The problem with Milroe is the short and intermediate stuff is inaccurate. So we'll see. I think there's a chance that he could rise. I think there is a chance he could be first round. One more here from Titan Maniac. Cam Ward equals Vince Young.
That one I don't see, because I think Vince Young was a great runner. I don't think Cam is a great runner. I think he's underrated and good. And I also think Cam is way better. Way better is harsh. I think he's better in the pocket. I think he's a more accurate thrower. I think he has better timing. Like,
Vince Young's mechanics weren't great as a thrower. It looked funny. I mean, I'm not a quarterback expert, but I don't think he threw the ball. His mechanics were not consistent.
Yeah, and I think, I was going to say, I think that was the issue, too, is that it was a lot of inconsistency in his mechanics. I think some of that stuff hurt him when he got to the next level.
Well, and then there was questions about Vince Young's work ethic as a pro. I don't think there are any questions about Cam Ward. Cam Ward came from Incarnate Word to Washington State to then Miami, got better every year. I think that's what the NFL loves about him is the progression.
Yeah, Cam Ward is a gym rat. He works out constantly. He's a great leader. Not that Vince wasn't at Texas, but Cam Ward, you don't have those issues in terms of work ethic.
Oh, that being said, I would have bet anything that Vince Young was going to be a star in the NFL. Loved Vince Young.
Same.
And actually did have a brief success there. In his first couple years, made some Pro Bowls. All right, coming up, we have a great debate that is very relevant to Vince Young. In fact, Vince Young could be the answer. It's an awesome one. Next, Maggie Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Chaos in the NBA. Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Maggie's out today. EJ Stewart, executive producer, sitting in the big chair here. We have to figure out a little bit what's going on here with the Denver Nuggets. Fire coach Mike Malone, fire GM Calvin Booth. 3 games left in the season. You would say completely unprecedented if it didn't happen 2 weeks ago with the Memphis Grizzlies and their coach, and in the same season where the Dallas Mavericks inexplicably traded Luka Doncic midseason to the Lakers. Something's going on here in the NBA, EJ. This can't be coincidence that you have these 3 unprecedented moves, strange moves. Nobody fires their coach on the brink of the playoffs, and the Grizzlies and the Nuggets, both higher seeds at the time. Nuggets now the 4 seed, I believe. What is going on here? How do you connect the dots here with all 3 of these moves?
Yeah, I wonder if Tom Thibodeau's waking up in a cold sweat. I think what's happening around the league. But no, I think what's happening is we're seeing the player control that has dominated the league over the last 15 years.
Yeah, but Jokic didn't want to fire Malone. Those guys are supposed to be tight.
It may not be Jokic, but it sounds like the team itself, in terms of the other players, we're not quite happy with Michael Malone because Michael Malone is known to be kind of a hard ass. He's one of those guys that will chew you out. He's one of those guys that will throw you under the bus in the media. And some people love it. Some people hate it. I actually tend to like it. I think he holds guys accountable.
Sure.
But like what you saw with a team that looked disjointed over the last month or so. Like they looked like a team that was heading in the wrong direction. They didn't look together. Russell Westbrook is not answering questions in the media for days, and then when he shows up, he's acts like he doesn't know where he is. Like it was a lot of weird things happening with the Nuggets towards the end of this year. So I think what you're seeing is the ownership, whether it's the superstars or not, saying, listen, if my players are not responding to this coach, then I don't have a choice in order to save these seasons. What frustrates me is I think you're doing the opposite. I just think you're throwing in the tile in the season because when you do that, you're asking now David Adelman, who's not a seasoned head coach. He's a seasoned assistant, and his dad was a great head coach. But you're asking that guy to learn on the fly how to coach through playoff series, which is the hardest thing to do. Like, coaching the playoffs is the most important part of being an NBA head coach. You can maybe argue that going through a regular season, you got back-to-backs, playing teams that play 3 games 4 nights. It's sometimes random, the results. The playoffs are where you make your money.
Yeah,
you're
but
asking a rookie to do this.
You could argue that these players have all been there before. This might be a team that generally I understand what you're saying, but first of all, you have Joker and all these guys have been in the playoffs a lot. Maybe it's the right team. Maybe you get a little bit of an interim coach bump, and then all these guys know what the playoffs are like. There's not a guy on that team, I don't think. Guys who even Christian Brown or the young guys, I mean, not really. Those guys have actually played in a lot of playoff games.
Some of them won championships. Christian Brown
so,
was a player who won a championship.
And I do think Joker might be a little bit of an exception where you might not need the best coach to win with that guy.
But you're going into a coaching series against Steve Kerr. Do you feel good about having a guy who just got hired last week? Do you feel good about going to a series? Yeah, feel good about going to a series against Ty Lue, an NBA champion,
right.
a guy who took a Clippers team without Kawhi to the Western Conference Finals. Like, I would feel terrible with those matchups.
I think the whole thing is an absolute joke, and I think it's an indictment of the entire league. And I'm being serious here. I think the NBA is filled with some not serious owners. I know the NFL is definitely filled with some not serious owners, but this comes back, it's personal. I was willing to give the Dallas Mavericks a chance that maybe they knew what they were doing, and they didn't. I've never seen something blow up faster than the Dallas Mavericks trading away Luka Doncic. So now I'm just going to go to the simple explanation. There is no explanation. This is ridiculous. It's an idiotic move by ownership, and I think that the Nuggets are not going to do what they could have possibly done this year's playoffs. I think they're going to go out really early, and I think we're going to look back, and I don't think they're going to build off this. I think eventually Joker's going to leave. I just don't see this all working out in some grand scheme.
And it's a shame because I think for me, it hurts the playoffs because I think, we could argue whether or not the Nuggets are a real championship team or if the Grizzlies were a real championship team. But those teams, and the Grizzlies are playing better to their credit, but those teams they finally won 3. They were playing terrible before, but they won 3 games in a row. But those teams, at least in a first-round matchup, are intriguing. Like, I want to see what they do against the Lakers, what they do against the Warriors. Like, those are fun matchups. Like, I feel like if these teams get past Memphis or Denver, it's going to be this big asterisk. Like, well, they had a guy who was basically got hired a couple weeks ago. They pulled out of the stands, and that's why they won. They'll get really tested when they face the Thunder or someone else later in playoffs. I don't want that. I don't want to have 2 dead teams walking into what was supposed to be a very competitive Western Conference.
Well, I know the commissioner is worried about one thing. Nobody wants to see the Lakers and the Warriors play in the first round. Right now, the Lakers are the 3 seed and the Warriors are the 6 seed, and they both could easily be 4-5 as well. This probably helps the Lakers secure the number 3 seed because the Nuggets are 1 game behind them. But still, you never know. You want Curry and LeBron alive as long as possible in this playoff if you're the commish.
You do, but do you want that at the risk of not having them play in the playoffs? Because those guys playing, whether it's first round or conference finals, is box office. No question.
I would spread it around. But LeBron alone they're both box office regardless.
That's true.
I think LeBron, especially LeBron and Luka, and the way Steph Curry has been playing lately, that'd be incredible. All right, we got to get to the great debate. Very interesting one this week. Sorry, go ahead.
The Great Debate Series.
See, Maggie would not have jumped the sound like that. That is right there in a nutshell. One of the many differences between Maggie and I. She is a consummate professional, and I'm what you got here. Okay. Great debate. There's a loose news hook here. The topic is the greatest college athlete who had no pro career. Now, this is mean because I was thinking of Walter Clayton Jr. when I thought of this.
Aww.
Because he seems like possibly one of those guys who has a great NCAA tournament and does not make it in the NBA. He might be picked in the teens or the 20s, or he might be great. I have no idea. But you know who I'm talking about. Sort of a college hero, pro zero. It happens a lot. There are guys who are all-time college athletes who do not make it in the pros. And I'm actually going to start this one myself because I think I have the ultimate choice. Who jumps into your mind? It's got to be Tim Tebow. And that is an unfair indictment of him as a pro. He did win a playoff game, and he had some promise. But he is the ultimate college football player. I would argue maybe the greatest college football player, not just because of what he did. His numbers were incredible. He was in that Urban Meyer spread at Florida, won 2 titles. One is really the primary starter. He could run. He could pass effectively enough in that system. But it's more than that. It was the rah-rah speech. And when you think of college football, you think of Tim Tebow's speech. You think of the team spirit that he had, that everybody followed him. The fact that there were some characters on that team who followed him as well.
No question.
He is the ultimate college football quarterback, and his pro career was almost the exact opposite. Not really totally his fault. One thing that happened to him, he couldn't be a backup because he got so much media attention that teams did not want to bring him into the locker room. But in my mind, he is the greatest college athlete who had no pro career. So I'm going Tebow. All right, EJ, who do you got?
I think I have the only answer. And I know sometimes got to be a little cocky with this great debate, but this one I feel like is the only answer, right? Because the answer is greatest college athlete who had no pro career. Well, the guy I have was an outstanding college athlete, a Heisman Trophy winner, who never played in the NFL.
1st and 10, Florida State. Ward has it up for grabs, complete for Van Over. This will be a touchdown. 60-yard completion from Charlie Ward. It's a Merritt Vanover.
Here all by himself. 2nd and goal from the 2. Here's the snap. Charlie runs to his right. Charlie may have the angle. 5, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Charlie Ward. Touchdown, Charlie Ward.
I'm going with Florida State quarterback Charlie Ward. Now, it feels sacrilegious for a Miami Hurricanes fan to big up a Florida State Seminole, but he was a great New York Knick, which brings me to my point. Charlie Ward was the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He won a national championship. In his 2 years at Florida State, they went 22-2. Didn't play in the NFL. Did not get drafted. There was NFL teams who were unsure of whether or not Charlie Ward's style of play back then, which actually probably would have made him a first-round pick this year.
Was he in the draft?
Yes, he entered the draft.
He did enter the draft.
He entered the draft.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
I had to look this up. So he entered the draft, but teams wanted assurances that he would play in the NFL if he was not a first-round pick. Charlie Ward believed he should have been a first-round pick. Teams didn't think so. So once he said, well, if I'm not a first-round pick, I'm going to look into the NBA, they just didn't draft him. And in some ways, it's a little bit of a mockery that the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback was not considered a first-round pick given the stats, given the success he had at Florida State, and then to not even take a flyer on him because make a decision. I mean, you have a 7th-round pick. You got guys getting drafted out of community college that year. They got drafted ahead of the Heisman Trophy winner, a guy who won a national championship. So if you're asking a player who had a great college career, who had no NFL or no pro promise, he literally didn't play. He didn't get drafted. So to me, Charlie Ward is the only answer to this question.
Well, he was a first-round pick, though.
In the NBA.
In the NBA.
So he had a pro career, just not in the sport that you're picking.
Yeah, he had a very, very good pro career.
Right.
I love Charlie Ward.
Probably should have won a title.
Football player, no pro career.
So I totally agree. I mean, think about what year we're talking about, 93.
Yep.
It was pre-Russell Wilson. They didn't know slightly shorter quarterbacks. They didn't know mobile quarterbacks.
Yep.
Do you think there was some racial bias at play?
Sure. I mean, that was something that they dealt with a lot back then.
Yeah.
And you look at some of those quarterbacks that were drafted. I mean, Heath Schuler was the 3rd pick in that draft. I mean, it's insanity.
Oh, God.
Insanity.
That's just mean.
That and like, no disrespect to Schuler, but like, I mean, Charlie Ward won a Heisman Trophy, and you wouldn't even take a flyer on him.
Charlie Ward would be the number 1 pick right now.
Yeah,
but to be fair, Baker Mayfield never would have been drafted back then either.
Yeah, no, true.
There was all you had to do to scout quarterbacks in the NFL was have a tape measure. It was all height all the time. Yeah. All right, great debate. Player who had the greatest college career and no pro career. Let's go to Manny. Who do you got, buddy?
All right, I will stay in the state of New York, and I will go to a guy who had the eyes on the nation on him in the late 2010s, or excuse me, the late 2000s, early 2010s.
Back in the day.
The good old days.
Which Nick is this? I'm confused.
This Nick, it actually is a Nick, a former Nick.
Don't be a cliche, Manny.
In James Taft Jimmer Fredette.
Oh, yeah.
And Clem might be the MVP of this team. Getting Fredette there. Yes, that's right. Fredette for 3. There he goes. He puts on quite a show, doesn't he? And we're enjoying it.
Yeah, he put on quite the show while he was at BYU. That didn't exactly translate into the NBA. Jimmer Fredette, 10th overall pick in 2011 by the Bucks, traded that night to the Kings. Ended up in Chicago, New Orleans, and with the New York Knicks before going overseas. Thrived overseas, but I mean, it's not exactly what I envisioned when I was a youngin' when I saw Jimmer Fredette tearing it up in the NCAA tournament. I'll go with Jimmer Fredette.
I still don't totally understand why he couldn't make it in the NBA because the league turned into a three-pointing league. He must have been so bad on D.
Cone, man.
Yeah, he can't guard the chair you're sitting in. It's serious.
That's a good one. All right, let's go to Ryan Botcher. Which player had the greatest college career and no pro career?
I'm going to go with the first person to ever win the Heisman as a freshman, Johnny Manziel. We all know Johnny Manziel's story. Only lasted 2 years in the NFL because of off-the-field issues. But to go from the top of his game, his freshman year, to captivate the nation, to falling out of the professional NFL in 2 years, he's got to be the biggest college star to do nothing in a pro career.
Manziel with a snap back into the pocket, looking, heaving the deep ball down the right side. There's Evans. He's going to make the kick at the 5. Touchdown. 44 yards. Manziel or Evans. It is 20-0. Texas A&M.
Why do I get the terrible feeling, by the way you described that you were too young to even see Johnny Manziel? That can't be true.
I was...
Manny told her about it.
He is younger than me. Yes, I did have to break out the picture book and tell Ryan about it.
5th grade me was like, this Johnny Manziel
Get
guy.
out of here. You were 5th grade.
Yeah, I was 11.
Bogusch, you heard the same thing,
That's how old Jake
right?
is right now.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
No. I felt like when you were talking about Johnny Manziel, that was the way I was talking about Roger Staubach or something. I was like, what is going on here?
What are you talking about this guy playing at Texas A&M?
There was this legend named Johnny Football.
At Texas Agricultural Mechanical.
Dad, what do you know about Drew Aller?
All right, Andrew Bogusch, who do you got?
Well, I don't know if I have the guy, but I was honored to be in the moment where the debate topic was picked, and I got my first choice, which is a rarity around here. We're going back to college basketball. He's not a Nick.
Finally, no complaining.
But he kind of was like Jimmer Fredette.
Zags, no timeouts. They've got to hurry. Here comes the All-America. Morrison, 6. Fires! Go! Get a 3!
That game was a non-conference game in December, but Gus and Raph were going nuts on CBS.
Of course.
Adam Morrison, a game-winning 3 against Oklahoma State, again in December of 2005, which is long enough ago. That game was played in Seattle on the Sonics floor in Key Arena.
I remember that game. As a Zags fan, I remember that game.
Yep.
You mean the Thunder?
If you're Manny or Botcher, you missed Adam Morrison taking college basketball by storm over 2 seasons. In 05-06 as a junior, he led the nation, 28.1 points per game. That included 5 40-point efforts. They reached the Sweet 16. That's where they lost to UCLA. Legend of Morrison on the court in tears after that game. He was the 3rd pick of the 06 draft by the Bobcats, guys. The Charlotte Bobcats. Was no longer a starter midway through his rookie season, tore his ACL before year 2. Then he was a Laker, and by 2011, he was playing very briefly in Serbia. 161 career NBA games, a 33% shooter from downtown, and just 7 points a game from Morrison.
Wow. Did you ever read, there was a big Sports Illustrated feature on him later, right? Did you ever read that?
I don't think so.
He's got a quirky personality, as
Yes,
they call
he
it.
does. Yeah.
I just looked up on Wikipedia his personal life. All it said was, Morrison lives near Spokane and does not believe in marriage.
That's it?
Sounds like Spokane, Washington, to be honest.
Sounds very Wikipedia as well.
Yeah, by the way, that's what I got. That sums up a man's life. I mean, they don't even mention the mustache in here. It is,
No, the mustache is gone. A video I found on
Yeah.
the NCAA's March Madness page, like a Adam Morrison sit-down interview. Clean shaven, hair's gelled back and everything like that.
I was going to say, do you guys know what he does now?
Is he the radio voice of them?
He
The
is.
analyst, right?
He's the radio color analyst for my Gonzaga Bulldogs.
According to Wikipedia, he's also the head coach of his high school alma mater.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
Just don't ask him to walk down the aisle, apparently.
or guard LeBron James.
Or leave Spokane.
Okay. You can weigh in, of course, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. The topic is, for the great debate, greatest college athlete who had no pro career. I went Tim Tebow. EJ went Charlie Ward. Ryan went Johnny Football. Manny went with Jimmer Fredette. And Bogusch went with Adam Morrison. All great choices. I feel like Tim Tebow is going to win the poll because, Tim Tebow is Tim Tebow. But you can weigh in, of course. Want to hear who you have. We mentioned Vince Young earlier in the show.
Yeah.
He would have qualified, although he did make 2 Pro Bowls, which is a fun little stat. There are a lot of guys who fit this. Let us know what you think. But coming up next, we got a guy who's definitely going to be a pro hero, not a pro zero. But EJ and I see him completely differently. That's next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie Perloff Show. EJ Stewart, executive producer, co-hosting with Maggie on vacation. Great debate Wednesday. Today's great debate: who had the best college career with no pro career? So it's college hero, pro zero. That sounds a little harsh, but it's true. I went with Tim Tebow. EJ went with Charlie Ward. Ryan Botcher, who's in today, went with Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel. Manny went with Jimmer Fredette. And Bogusch chose Adam Morrison. And if you don't remember Adam Morrison, trust me, he qualifies. We want to hear from you. 888-710-4ISN. 888-710-4476. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Wilson in California. Who do you got? College hero, pro zero.
Good morning, Perloff. Dig the show as usual.
Awesome.
Back in the late 80s, there was a transition period for the Boston Celtics. They drafted a tremendous All-American out of Maryland by the name of Len Bias.
Oh, yeah.
And a few days later, of course, he died of a cocaine overdose. And he was supposed to be the future of the Celtics, and it's tragic because it set that organization back for years. But I've been watching that doc on HBO.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Is it good?
Unbelievable. And brings back bad memories. And I've mentioned this on your show in the past. I grew up, in grade school and middle school, a diehard Laker fan in L.A. And me and my dad on Sundays after church would just die watching the Lakers year after year lose to that team. But it's a tremendous documentary. You should catch it. But Len Bias came right to mind immediately.
Awesome. Thank you, Wilson. Len Bias, I know in the documentary, because I've heard Bill Simmons, who produced it, talk about it, that was the turning point for the Celtics.
Yeah.
When Len Bias died, it was 88, 87.
86.
Oh, was it 86? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changed everything because it looked like they were going to continue their dynasty. Didn't happen. I mean, I remember this was very similar. I was kind of younger. It was like Magic Johnson having AIDS. That moment, Magic Johnson announcing he was HIV positive in a press conference, it was a sea change because me and my friends loved Len Bias in Maryland. He was incredible. When he died, it came out of nowhere, and it was totally a shock.
And I've heard a lot of the stories, and my dad told me a lot of stories about Len Bias. This is really almost became double pronged because then they had Reggie Lewis die too in the 90s, and he was another star that the Celtics seemed like, okay, we have the guy after Larry Bird, and twice they had these unspeakable tragedies.
Oh, I know.
But Reggie Lewis was awesome.
I know. Another great player. That was terrible. Okay, we're doing guys who had no success in the pros but were great college players. Let's go to Louie in Oklahoma. Louie, who do you got?
Hey, I got Tony Mandridge from Michigan State.
Oh, yeah. What was that SI cover with Tony Mandridge? Do you remember that?
Yep, sure do.
I had a funny line, like the great something.
The NFL's incredible bust.
Yeah,
that was the second one. There was an original one.
Oh.
There was an original one. It came out before the draft. He's shirtless. And
the Incredible Bulk.
The Incredible Bulk.
Yeah.
Oh, and they did a second one. Yes, that is a great choice, Louie.
Thank you much. You guys have a great day.
All right, let's go to Zach in West Virginia. Zach, who do you got? Guy who is a college hero and a pro zero.
Hey, guys, I'm going to go with Pat White, one of the only quarterbacks to win 4 CFB games, all 4 years, 4-0. He got drafted by the Dolphins. It just never panned out. But he's back home in West Virginia. He is, I believe, a quarterback coach this year. Back home with Rich Rodriguez, so I'm very disappointed that his pro career didn't turn out. But he is now back home, and he is going to get this program turned around.
Okay. It's funny you bring that up. I'm looking at I remember the hit against the Steelers that took him out. Lefty quarterback, Dolphins, small, gets hit, ruins his career.
Oh, gosh.
Who's that remind you of?
Oh, gosh. Our guy, Tua.
Yeah, and Pat White, he was
Michael Vick.
Electric in college. I totally agree. That was a great call. I loved Pat White. I'm watching the highlight. Ike Taylor hit him.
Tim Tebow.
Name other left-handed quarterbacks. I was going to say
the Dolphins, but this guy was small, fat. I mean, Tua's not fast, but he was super fast, took a hit, and just was never the same.
Those West Virginia offenses with him and Steve Slayton, we don't talk about enough how electric those two guys were in the backfield. And we talk about, heartbreaking losses that take you out of national championship contention. I mean, them losing to a 5-win Pitt team at the end of the season in the backyard brawl with LaShawn McCoy running for 200-plus yards. I know, West Virginia, forgive me, I know this is bad for your fans, but that is one of the most brutal losses I could think of any fan base having. I mean, you had a chance to win a national championship, and LaShawn McCoy, who I think was a freshman at the time, runs for 200 yards. I mean, that was brutal, but Pat White was absolutely electric.
I totally agree. Forget Steve Slayton. Tavon Austin is one
Austin
of the,
was also a monster, too.
I mean, he was I think he had 600 yards in a game. He could play every position, but he did a little bit in the pros, unlike he did more than Pat White. So I'm not sure Tavon Austin would qualify, but he was to be. You're right. Those offenses were crazy good. And of course, Rich Rod, and then later on, Dana, too. This is a program which had these great offenses that have not worked in the pros. All right, let's go to Tanner in East Bay, California. College hero, pro zero. Who do you got?
I got Greg Oden out of Ohio.
Ohio State.
Yep, correct. Basketball.
I think you have to say the state part, right?
Well, they'll make you say the
but
Ohio.
Well, no. So Oden, though, it's in the Sam Bowie kind of territory where injuries and personal problems took him out?
That's a great question. I'll be quite honest with you. I'm in my early 20s, and the knowledge on basketball is not vast that era. I just know he did not pan out.
Absolutely. No, Tanner, you're right on. You young guys, I love. You're much like Ryan Botcher, who picked Johnny Manziel, even though he was in 4th grade. Good call. All right, let's go to Mike in Seattle. College hero, pro zero. Who do you got?
Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker? He was okay in the pros?
Nah. I mean, he was the greatest in college, but I don't know. I thought he was going to do better. I really did.
I know.
I don't think.
We all did. He might be the greatest college running back I've ever seen. Him and Bo Jackson.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to meet him up in Alaska one time. It was great. Nicest guy on the planet, man.
Came
awesome guy.
into the Dan Patrick Show. I know that he was polarizing as a politician. He was so nice and so much fun to hang out with. Because for my generation, older, he was such a hero. And, of course, he's known now as the worst trade in NFL history because the Cowboys traded him and got the picks to make the 90s Super Bowl team.
Right. I thought he's just going to do a lot better, man, when he came out of college. And I was kind of rooting for him because I was up in Alaska and got to meet him. And it was just, I was rooting for him in the pros, and it just didn't go as far as I thought,
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I love it. By the way, Herschel made 2 Pro Bowls, so that's something. But no, he's definitely
ran for 1,000 yards for your Eagles.
Yeah. The funny thing about Herschel, he's big and fast and strong. He seemed to go down on the first tackle a lot, the first tackler. Okay, let's go to Mike in Syracuse. The topic is college hero did nothing in the pros. Who do you got?
Well, I thought EJ was going to steal it when he said Heisman Trophy winner that never played in the pros.
Yeah.
You got to go a little farther back to around 1959, 1960, and the tragic story of Ernie Davis, the Elmira Express.
Well, this isn't the Len Bias category. I mean, these guys didn't. Yeah.
I mean, it's true. Like, he didn't play in the NFL, but
I know it's a great one. It is a story that everyone should know.
Yeah, I guess we were thinking more on the lines of like you had the opportunity, or you were here obviously to potentially play in the NFL or the NBA, whatever sport, and you weren't able to. But it is true in terms of like I thought Charlie Ward he's not the only guy, and there are other guys too, obviously, but Ernie Davis also one of the more famous examples.
Yeah, sad story. Okay, keep them coming. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Great debate. College hero, pros hero. Let's get some headlines. Andrew Bogusch.
Guys, things are going pretty well for the T-Wolves last night in Milwaukee, leading 95-71 early in the fourth quarter, and then they didn't win.
Pass deflected by Trent. Gets it over to DiVincenzo. His pass intercepted by Porter. Another pilfer. He gives it to Giannis. It's loose. Now Porter picks it up. He'll lob to Giannis, who sends it down. Oh, baby. The Bucks blowing the roof off the building here at Fiserv Forum.
Dave Kane on Bucks Radio. Milwaukee won the final period 40-13 to steal the game 110-103. Giannis finishing with 31 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. Minnesota head coach Chris Finch expects their season to continue.
I have every confidence that we'll be able to bounce back. We got good guys. They'll shake it off. We've had some tough losses before in the season, so we didn't expect to go undefeated over our last 10 games.
The T-Wolves had won 5 straight. They are 8th in the West this morning, a game behind the Grizzlies, who were 124-100 winners in Charlotte. And in that game, Ja Morant debuted his new 3-point celebration, appearing to take a grenade out of his pocket, pull the pin with his teeth, and throw it into the crowd, and then even covering his ears for the fake explosion.
Making that up.
I am not.
Andrew Bogusch, that is a lie. Did that really happen?
Show you the video right here.
Wow.
So he was warned by the NBA not to do the gun.
Yep.
Is this worse, better, different? What's going on?
So here's the video. If you can see this gentleman here is Ja Morant. Waiting to shoot a 3 over, I think that's Taj Gibson. Yeah. There's the 3.
Taj Gibson's still playing. Wow.
Boom, pin, throw, ears covered.
Okay, yeah, that is definitely throwing a grenade into the crowd.
Yeah.
Wow. It feels a little worse than the gun.
It's not great. And it's almost like he sat there and was like, what's another violent thing I can do that's not the gun thing? And he did it. Like I don't understand them. And now he's been playing awesome. He's on a tear right now. It's almost one of those things where you know those weird things where like the guy can't perform if he's not doing certain things. Like Ja Morant's had a rough season for most of the season, and then he's been doing this gun celebration. He's been playing great in the last few weeks. Are we in a situation where perhaps he needs these weird things alluding to violence in order for him to perform?
Yeah, maybe.
Or needs to be in like a combative setup with the league?
Yeah.
I think it's
is it helping him somehow?
This is what I said. You know how Grayson Allen couldn't stop kicking guys in the junk when he was at Duke? It was a compulsion. I think I don't think he can control it. And would it be weird if he came up with like a new form of death for every 3-pointer? He's like, I'm fake strangling a guy or something. I don't even know what's next.
Does it matter that this one involved the fans? Because he was shooting at Buddy Hield. Does this now, do we have to read into that he threw the grenade into the seats?
Yeah, so you're saying, well, what if it was near where he threw it was near enough to the opposing bench that you're getting into taunting?
Clearly
that's probably why you didn't do that.
We don't know where the fake grenade landed. This is the silliest conversation I've ever had. Yeah.
But he does seem, whether he's doing it, whether there's an issue that like is diagnosable and needs to be worked through, or he's just a doofus. Like we're back in this world where he's flirting with not being on the court, which is bad for everybody.
Well, Ja Morant, and to me, he's a one-hit wonder when it comes to celebrations. Because again, I keep saying he has one of the coolest signature celebrations. Call 12 as a celebration for when you win. He hits a game winner. It's great. He wears number 12. We all know call 12, call the police. Like because we just beat somebody. There's a dead body. Like that's fun. That's like okay, cool. Like that we get it is a pun with your number. And it's a great, easy call line, just using your phone signal. And then the second thing he has, like the second one, is the one he can't figure out. He can't. It's not a gun. It's not a grenade. Like he's a one-hit wonder. Like you had a great signature celebration, and then you go to this nonsense.
Oh,
find something else.
All right, Bogues, what else you got?
We've got the Thunder outscoring the Lakers by 17 over the last 8 minutes after Luka was ejected for a second technical foul. OKC won the game 136-120. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scoring 42. The Cavs clinched number 1 in the East with a 135-113 home win over the Bulls. The Suns took a 133-95 home beating from the Warriors. They are now one loss or one Mavs win away from play-in elimination. And the Pacer win streak up to 5 after a 104-98 decision over the Wizards. Indy has a 3-game lead on the Bucks for the 4 seed with 3 to play. We mentioned Jackson Dart back in hour number 1. He reportedly met yesterday with the Browns. The Raiders are next. He has already spent some real time with the Giants, Saints, and Rams ahead of the draft. And finally, let me introduce Pearl to 22-year-old Nats outfielder James Wood.
Here is James Wood. Swings and belts one. Deep right center field. How far will it go? Going, gone, goodbye. Bang, zoom goes James Wood again with his second 2-run home run in the first 4 innings of this game.
I'm trying to get you ahead of the curve here. Last year you were behind on Jackson Churio, so now I'm giving you James Wood, who I think was the guy that the Nats got from the Padres, at least position player-wise, in the Juan Soto trade.
Correct. There's a lot of puns off this. Got good wood on the bat.
You can do that however you want. Charlie Slows.
It reminds me of the, you guys know that Maggie's not here, so I'm allowed to talk about the Dennis Smith Jr. tweet, the best tweet of all time.
Oh, yes, the Dennis.
Everybody has God-given talents. Mine's happens to be something this would.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest tweet of all time. He was 13. It was 5 years before the draft. And Dennis Smith was talking about his ability to...
Yeah. At 13.
To swing wood, yes.
Right. We also need to drop
like James Wood.
the qualification of because Maggie's not here.
Yeah.
Because Maggie's filthy.
True.
Maggie doesn't stop us from being pigs.
Some ways she's worse than us.
Yeah.
Many ways. No, that's true. No, she's totally dirty.
Well, again, she's changing her ways because she's currently in the Mongolian mountains becoming a Buddhist.
Cleansing herself.
I wanted to, can we discuss this?
Sure.
That she wouldn't tell Manny or EJ where she's going. I know where she's going. I know the whole maturation of this trip. The whole story.
Would you tell Manny where you were going on vacation? You want him bothering you when you're on a beach somewhere?
I mean, I understand not saying it on the radio so nobody knows where you are or that you're not home. But, why wouldn't she tell Manny or EJ where she's going?
I don't know.
Wait, EJ, you don't know either?
I don't know exactly where, but I have a general idea of, she's not anywhere close.
I have no idea.
She's not anywhere close. That's what I know.
I have no idea. So I just kind of threw a dart at a map in my bedroom, and it kind of landed on Mongolia. So that's where I'm going with it.
Okay.
And the newsroom heard Manny get denied. He asked where, and she was just like, no.
Are you serious?
This is a true story.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt my feelings at all.
Didn't think it was going to go on air, but we're here now.
Yeah,
So the conversation said, Maggie, where are you going on vacation? I'm not telling you. Wow.
Hard pass. More or less. That's how you guys are getting the gist of the.
I mean, the only conclusion is she thought you were going to go there too.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so.
I didn't even think of that. I thought it was like she doesn't trust you on air with it, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
true.
if it was around lunchtime and Manny said, Maggie, where are you going to lunch? I'm not telling you, then that would make more sense. Maggie loves you, Manny. Stop.
I'm not
He didn't bring it up. It was
tripping about it.
The troublemaker.
And not even me. I didn't even notice it when it happened. I was asked, hey, did you hear that? And I said, what? And then I was told, I'm like, wow.
I thought nothing of it. That's
and
why
I love
didn't bring
rooting
it
against
up.
Manny, so I was all for it.
I know Manny thought nothing of it because I asked him, did you think that was weird? He was like, I think nothing of it.
Like I told everybody in the newsroom, people can't hurt my feelings. Only the Knicks can hurt my feelings.
So you're used to getting your feelings hurt.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You're numb at this point?
Oh, yeah, I can't feel a thing.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. We have a lot of calls on the line. Greatest college player with no pro career, college hero, pro zero. Give us a call, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. That's next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Living life in 20-second views. Scrolling through, he's got no time to lose. Maggie and Perloff, Daly's keeping score. YouTube's his love. He's begging for more. Double tap, clicking on that video. From sunrise to sunset, he never lets it go. Maggie snappy, Perloff's got a glow. Daly's hooked, he's looking for the show. Chasing trends, Daly's on a quest. Comments pouring in, he's one of the best. From every corner of the internet's reach. Daly's voice. Ready to breathe. Ready to preach. Reach it to preach. Pine Needles wakes up at dawn. Coffee brewing, screen turned on. He's got a favorite show to see. The Maggie and Perloff Symphony. Oh, Pine Needles are tuned in tight to Infinity Sports Radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words, you find your life. From highlights to the breaking news, every take you can't refuse. In the chat, he's always there with comments, questions, wisdom to share. Oh, Pine Needles, you're tuned in tight to Infinity Sports Radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words, you find your life. When the games get tough and the stakes are high, Pine Needles knows where to rely on the voices that break it down. Maggie and Perloff never let him down. He's got a playlist all saved up, from epic wins to the close-up. Loyal viewer through and through. Pine Needles, this song's for you. Oh, Pine Needles, you're tuned in tight to Infinity Sports Radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words, you find your life. So here's to the fan, always engaged with every comment, every page. Pine Needles, you're the heart and soul of the Maggie and Comments. Pine Needles wakes up at dawn. Coffee brewing, screen turned on. He's got a favorite show to see. Maggie woke up, felt a change in the air. Reached for his razor, didn't have another care. He shaved it off that iconic mustache. Now he's just a face lost in the mass. How many ways did you go? Without your mustache, we just don't know. Bring back the charm, the style, the flair. Grow it back, man.
45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Great Debate Wednesday. Topic today is player who had a great college career and did nothing in the pros. College hero, pro zero. It's a perfect time for this. We came off the NCAA tournament. We've seen this a lot. Guys have great tournament runs and just aren't cut out for the NBA. And we're coming up on the NFL draft where, unfortunately, we've seen it for some teams at the top. Guys have great college careers and just do not make it in the NFL for whatever reason. I went Tim Tebow. EJ went with Charlie Ward. Ryan Botcher went Johnny Manziel. Manny went with Jimmy Fredette. And Bogusch went with Adam Morrison. Give us a call with your choice, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's go to our friend Adrian in Maryland. Adrian, who do you got?
Hey, what's up, Mr. Perloff? Sorry, Maggie's not in. You guys can't find her. I got Duke. They could probably field the whole team. You got Bobby Hurley. You got Kristen Leitner. You got Danny Ferry. I don't know what it is, but the ACC for some reason just brings out, I wouldn't say bust, but guys that don't develop at the next level. EJ, I know you're from New York. How about King Rice? What happened to him?
Oh, yeah. No question. I mean, I was thinking about Pearl Washington.
Pearl
Big
Washington.
Brooklyn legend, Big East legend who went to the Nets and flamed out.
Yeah.
You got Billy Owens. You got Billy Owens.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that was Big East. But, yeah, I love it. Thank you, Adrian. They've turned that around a little bit at Duke because they have Jason Tatum, Zion.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys who are now good.
And I think that's actually a shift from the recruiting by Mike Krzyzewski, because he was a guy where he wanted guys who would stay long term. He would get Medal Americans, but he didn't get the flashy one and done type guys. And he dabbled in a little bit in the late 90s, but then went back to that, and they were losing. And then he had to change his strategy, and that's when you started seeing Jahlil Okafor, Tyus Jones, Kyrie Irving, Zion Williams. You started
Marvin
these guys,
Bagley.
You started seeing these top recruit one and done guys start going there instead of Kentucky.
Yeah,
so that was a big change for him.
And now possible 2 one and done or 3 one and dones on this team. But King Rice is from Binghamton, Maggie's high school. Adrian, it's a shame you said that, but she loves that name.
Yeah.
He's actually not from New York. Okay, let's go to Timothy in Michigan. Timothy, who do you got for college hero pro zero?
Good morning, my hearties. I have a player and as a coach, and that's Steve Spurrier.
Oh, so you have a double dip here. You're saying he did it both ways.
I believe it was 1966. He was the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yep.
And then his pro career was nondescript, and he really didn't do that well and was it Washington's coach. I don't even know if he had a winning season.
Wait, so he was a flame out as a Washington coach. That did not work. I remember he was a high pick it's either the AFL or the NFL. Did he do anything in the pros? I got to get the stats on that. I know he was a disappointment.
I think his only good thing he did was, I think he was a punter for a bit, and at least he hit the ball each time.
Yeah, he was a punter for 2 years with it looks like San Francisco. It looks like San Francisco 49ers, which is crazy.
Hey, I want to add this. Now Maggie's been missing a lot of time. Is she approaching 0 for you guys?
Oh, Maggie missing time? Like, she's been off a little bit. No, Maggie's a workhorse. Maggie's like, she's one of those folks that, I mean, she will come in. I mean, you guys saw, right, a couple of weeks ago when she was like passed out sick. She's still here. Well, I was worried I was going to get sick.
No. This was Timothy, we can't tell you where like the plans for vacation. We can't even tell Manny. So this is like
you can't.
But she's good. She's good. Thank you for the call, buddy. That's a good one, Steve Spurrier, because he did it as a coach and a player, which is unbelievable. All right, let's go to PJ in Atlanta. PJ, who do you got? College, hero, pro, zero.
Donald Williams.
Donald Williams, the guard? Yeah.
1993 MVP of the Final Four with 10 for 14. Went overseas, played for the Harlem Globetrotters. And why is that guy bringing up Billy Owens? He played with Jeff Lebo in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It's not a New York guy, so I don't get that guy. But yeah, Donald Williams, I thought would go pro and have a really good career, but he played overseas for probably 16, 17 years. But it just never panned out.
Well, Billy Owens, because he didn't do anything in the pros, that makes I understand what you're saying. Donald Williams.
Yeah, could you imagine him and Jeff Lebo? They were on the same team in high school. They were stupid good.
Was Donald Williams was on the court then for the Weber timeout? Is that the same year?
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, he didn't hit
player.
the rim, dude. He was wet all game. 5 for 7.
You know what's funny about
points.
You know what's
he
funny
was,
about
he was a beast.
Yeah, you know what's funny about Donald Williams? I think he really kind of fell into the trap that maybe he wouldn't have fell into right now, which is he was kind of a tweener, right? He was like 6'3", 6'2",
shooting guard.
And at that time, it was like
No, he didn't have an agent.
Right.
He refused to get an agent. When he went pro.
That won't help you either.
And that's the one that messed him up. And he went overseas from 95 through 2003. Now he's a high school coach in Wakefield, North Carolina. But, man, his jumper was wet, dude.
Awesome. Thank you, PJ. That's a really good one. Let's go to Jimmy in Cleveland, who has one of my all-time favorites. Jimmy, who do you got?
So, right before I tell you who I got, if you win the Heisman, it seems like you're not going to be good. Because I remember Gary Beeben, Pat Sullivan, Johnny Rodgers, Toretta. They did nothing.
Well, you're going old school there. Gary Beebe? I mean, come on. That's a long time ago.
You're going Spurrier. True. So I'm thinking Bosworth. Brian Bosworth, biggest disappointment I ever saw. Who's going to be the next, better than Dick Butkus?
Boz was a phenomenon.
I know.
At Oklahoma.
I know. And unbelievable. So, I mean, he was going to, and now he does good commercials now. So, I got to give him that. But I think Bosworth.
The Heisman's on a bit of a roll for the NFL, though. Because a lot of these guys, and thank you, Jimmy, a lot of these guys who won the Heisman were number 1 overall picks. We've had a lot of, because now it usually goes to a quarterback, and they haven't all been good, but you got Jaden Daniels last year, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, we'll see. Devontae Smith, I think he's been good. And obviously Joe Burrow can't do any better than that.
Yeah, in some ways, it's like maybe the voters got smarter, or maybe these guys getting more of a chance. I don't know. But you know what's funny about the Boz? I wonder if, and we have another guy on there on this list that I'm interested to hear about as well, can a linebacker in today's football, can they be the massive star that Bosworth was?
Yeah, the hair and the style.
Feared, like
scary. It's different, but Micah Parsons?
But he's a pass rusher. Like, I mean, like a middle
linebacker.
A stand-up linebacker. Yeah. I don't know if he can anymore.
No, that's different. By the way, that leads me. I have a surprise for tomorrow. I've been watching and rewatching the movie Draft Day for a thing I'm writing, and Vontae Mack is basically Brian. They called him a middle linebacker and then showed a million highlights of him rushing around the edge in the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, but that's a side point. All right, I think we're out of time for this segment, but we have a bunch more calls lined up of college heroes who did not make it in the pros. These are great. Just to hear the name Bosworth, it brings a smile to my face. Keep them coming. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We're also going to try and figure out what we've been trying to figure out all show. What on earth are the Denver Nuggets doing, firing their coach and GM with 3 games left in the season? I say it has no chance of working. What say you? That is coming up right here on the Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. Maggie is off. Apparently, no one here knows where she is except for me and a couple other people. We'll get into that later. EJ Stewart sitting in the big chair. EJ, last night, Denver Nuggets fire their coach, Mike Malone, fire their GM, Calvin Booth. How do you think this move impacts the Western Conference playoff race?
I think if you're any of those teams that aren't the Thunder but feel like, hey, we made some moves that now make us more serious contenders, I'm talking about the Lakers or the Warriors, you have to be ecstatic, especially the Lakers, because I think Laker fans will know this. Mike Malone has taken great joy in beating the crap out of the Lakers. He talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
He talks about, why are people talking about the Lakers? We kick their ass all the time. Like, he makes it known that the Nuggets own the Lakers, and they have. There's no doubt about that. And I don't know, it feels like probably, and I love Malone, but it's probably more of a Jokic thing than a Malone thing. But any way in which the Nuggets have to, change the furniture around and mess up anything that they're doing. If you're a Laker fan, you got to feel great because you feel, all right, that's a team that we could not get past. Yep. Now they have this massive hurdle they got to get over of how to figure out whether Adelman's the right guy and can he get up to speed in time for them to be in a playoff series. If you're the Lakers, you're playing against the Nuggets potentially. Now you have Luka Doncic and they don't have their head coach and they're in turmoil. I think you got to feel like, oh, man, this is a great opportunity. We can avoid the Thunder as long as we can. We got to have a really serious shot here.
Well, right. The narrative 2 weeks ago was, let's get the 3 seed so we can play Houston in the second round and avoid Denver. Now, I don't even know. I think you'd rather see Denver than Houston. I think there's no doubt. But the two things. The West is so tightly packed that anything could happen with these seeds. They are all on top of each other, could move around 5 times. Secondly, I think the playoffs are unpredictable. Did anybody see the Dallas Mavericks playing the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals last year? That was supposed to be the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets had it. They went to 7 games with Minnesota, came out of nowhere. I think there's a possibility this year there is chaos because it's such a loaded conference.
Yeah, in the Western Conference, I think the seeding in some ways doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're talking about teams that have 1 or 2 game difference. So it's just going to be a number next to a name, but it's not really going to matter. The only seed that will matter is number 1. Oklahoma City, because they're so much better than everyone else.
In your mind, who is the biggest threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Lakers.
Yeah, I would go Lakers too, but I think the Lakers are 1A as a threat. I think the Warriors are right behind them. I think that's the next closest threat, and only because of the experience and the craziness. I think you're going to need a big upset, but I just get worried. The Thunder are so young, and they're going to go against guys who've been there so many times. I mean, more times than anyone. We're talking about not just Steph Curry, but Jimmy Butler. We're not talking about just LeBron, but we're talking about Luka Doncic. The Thunder, if you're a Thunder fan, you're excited, but I think you have to be a little nervous of the guys you're going up against.
Absolutely, because you're talking about guys that are Hall of Famers, guys that have done this before, guys who will know how to work their way through the ups and downs of a playoff series where the Thunder still are a young team. I've said from the beginning I thought the Warriors were fool's gold after getting Jimmy Butler. I'm preparing to eat a lot of crow, I'll be honest, because they look amazing. I think the one thing I will hold on to and why I'm still not totally sold on the Warriors is sometimes the Mavs did it last year and they ended up being true contenders, right? But sometimes at the end of the season, you got so many teams that are just trying to get to the finish line on both sides. Good teams that say, okay, we've done what we need to do. We're a playoff team. Let's just get to the playoffs. And then bad teams who are like, hey, we just want to tank. Like, I don't want to just take all these wins that the Warriors are racking up against these teams that have different motivations and say, well, this little thing I've seen means that they've completely turned it around. And the Warriors, while Steph looks a lot better, though he's had this tailbone injury that seems to flare up every now and then.
Yeah, but that won't be there in the playoffs.
I hope not. But he took a fall the other night, and he was banged up. It was not like, I don't know if this is a thing that's going to heal over the course of the season. I just wonder if some of these other guys that they've been playing, because they're playing some like Post and Santos, they're playing guys who are non-drafted, non-heralded, and they're going to be relied on for value minutes. Brandon Podziemski is like he's on a heater right now. He's awesome. Playing so great. But like, again, these are guys who are also improving. So will those guys play at that level when you have to play against OKC or play against some of these top teams? That'd be my only question mark, because I think that Steph and Draymond and Jimmy at their advanced ages, I think they're going to need a little more from those other guys than maybe years past. I don't know if they guys just carry them to the championship.
I also just want to throw out for my Timberwolves too. Did you see Dante DiVincenzo got caught fire from 3 yesterday?
Yeah.
They have Anthony Edwards and a bunch of 3-point shooters. Could be an interesting team as well. All right. We can't figure out the Nuggets. The funny thing is we did not mention the Nuggets as a real threat. I believe they're out of it. If you disagree, give us a call, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Also, we want to hear from you on our great debate today, which, of course, is the college hero who did nothing in the pros. Greatest college athlete who did 0 or close to 0 in the pros. I went with Tim Tebow. EJ went with
Charlie Ward.
Yep. Ryan Botcher chose Johnny Manziel. Manny Rodriguez went with Jimmer Fredette. And Bogusch went with Adam Morrison. All right, let's go to the phone lines. I want to hear your college hero, pro zero. Let's start with Dave in Queens. This is a great one. And like all these guys, there's an awesome backstory. Dave, who do you got?
Morning, guys. Thanks. I mean, you guys all named a lot, and your callers named a lot of good ones. My guy I just put up because others have been named Manti Te'o.
Yep.
He was splashed everywhere. I mean, he probably overachieved in college because he became a big one in his senior year. So I give him credit as an athlete. I'm glad he even got drafted. But in the pros, I expected a little bit more because he's an athlete, and you could think he could adapt. And it looked like he didn't know how to do the reads. It really looked like, like Notre Dame. Sometimes they bust in the pros, and he was one of them. And I like him for his college career. I give him a good start, but the pro thing fizzled. And can I just say one thing? One of your callers, Zach, was a good caller. He said Pat White.
Yeah.
Pat White did win 4 bowl games, and that's good. But Phillip Rivers won 5. Phillip Rivers started every game since a freshman, and he also started the Senior Bowl and won it. So he won 5.
Oh, okay.
And he won MVP in each 5, and you could look it up. He's the only man that's ever going to do that.
Yeah.
And he wants good. So 5-0, 5 MVPs in the bowl games for Phillip Rivers. Now that's not fizzling. That's serious. And
yeah, that's the opposite.
Second to that. But
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
That was a good one. Manti Te'o's a fun one. I kind of wonder, did the shiny gold helmet help would we have known, would he have been the same phenomenon, A, if he was at Oklahoma State, and B, if he didn't have a fake girlfriend? So there was a lot going on.
I was going to say, him and the Boz are kind of similar in the sense that I kind of wonder if both guys lost their superpowers after particularly embarrassing events.
What was Boz?
Being run over by Bo Jackson, and then Bo Jackson flying down the field on Monday Night Football and blowing that was a massive.
You mean in the pros?
In the pros, yes. That was a massive moment. And it was like, what's going to happen when Boz sees Bo? And Bo showed he was Bo. And
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Boz was going to make it one way or the other.
Maybe not, but that's just the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Was that, and then with Manti, like, he was a stud at Notre Dame, a great middle linebacker. And then he had that girlfriend thing, and he had that terrible Alabama game. And then it was like he lost all his superpowers. Like, is it possible it was mental with those guys?
No, I think that's a convenient error. I mean, again, what are the two common things about them? They're inside linebackers. It's a dicey position in the NFL. That's why Te'o fell to the second round in the first place, because he wasn't a pass rusher and he was a linebacker. And usually those guys are 5th rounders. And Boz, it's funny. I can't compare Manti Te'o's fake girlfriend to Boz getting run over by Bo Jackson. They're totally different.
No, but I think it had the impact that America saw them as one way, and then when that stuff happened, they were looked at totally different.
I think the Manti Te'o story was the biggest story in sports for 3 months. I'm not sure I would say that was Boz, but we disagree on that. All right, let's go to Lee in Boise. College hero, pro zero. Lee, who do you have?
I got Danny Manning from KU.
Oh, college hero for sure. Are you sure about the pro zero part?
Well, granted, he did play for 15 seasons.
Yeah, had a few
he
20.
was drafted number 1 overall, but he played for 7 different teams and really didn't.
I agree.
As much as he did.
Yeah, he did
in college.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the college run was a miracle at Danny and the Miracles. So I agree with that one. Thank you, Lee.
I'm going to disagree with that one.
Yeah, do you think he was too good in the pros?
Yeah, I mean, Danny Manning took the Clippers to the playoffs. I mean, come on. And he was the best player. And I believe he got hurt, right? Didn't he have a knee injury?
Two-time All-Star.
Yeah, he tore his ACL on his rookie year. I think that's a little harsh.
I do think he did not meet expectations. Can you give me that?
Yeah, but not a college zero. And I think, again, Manning showed that when he got to his prime before the injuries really started to rack up, he was an All-Star. He was a 2-time All-Star. I think that's a little harsh.
Okay. Derek in Baltimore. Derek, who do you got for College Hero Pro Zero?
How you doing? So someone took my answer. I was going to say Pat White.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good one.
Since someone took that, I'm going to go with his teammate, Steve Slayton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another one. Yeah.
Was Steve Slayton a big enough star to qualify here?
Well, I mean, 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and one of them was 1,700. And then he had almost like 35 touchdowns total in college. So you take all that, and then he got in the NFL, and it was like, it was a dud. So
I would argue that Tavon Austin was more spectacular than Slayton.
Well,
Tavon Austin he was electric.
But they're all good. They're all good choices. This, of course, is a function. The offense was, these spread offenses for a long time. If you want to talk about, there were a lot of guys, and thank you, Derek, for the call, who had incredible college success. All the air raid guys, Graham Harrell at Texas Tech. All these guys had crazy careers, and then for a long time, the NFL didn't know what to do with these spread players, and they just did not translate, especially spread quarterbacks.
Yeah, they didn't translate, and it was a shame because I feel like now the game has changed with those guys. You want those guys.
Now both run the same offenses. Yeah. I remember, and I was wrong about this one. I thought, well, Cam Newton's coming out of it was Gus Malzahn, right?
Gus Malzahn.
Spread offense at Auburn, and this hasn't worked a lot. But then the Panthers smartly took a lot of elements from that. Then teams saw that like, oh, okay, it's not them, it's us.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson was the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, he's running this spread offense kind of thing at Louisville, but what's he gonna do in the NFL? Well, the Ravens threw out the playbook that was Flacco and said, all right, we're running all these different plays for Lamar Jackson, and he came in and he was a Stars rookie year.
On that note, that's why I told you this before. I think Jalen Milroe out of Alabama might be a little underrated now because he did not fit Kellen DeBoer's offense that Penix just destroyed. But he was really good with Tommy Rees and Nick Saban in his final year at Alabama. Let's go to Sean in Oregon. Sean, I'm not sure if you have a College Hero Pro Zero, but you have a theory about Maggie deciding not to tell Manny where she's going on vacation. Sean, what do you think?
I think that's kind of strange, you guys. Like, when you ask somebody what they're doing, they say they're not going to tell you. It'd be like, it's like, we talk to these college athletes, and if you interviewed an athlete and you asked him what he was doing over the summer, he says, I'm not going to tell you. We got to speculate. And it's like, when Aaron Rodgers went on vacation, he wouldn't tell nobody. He went on that.
I do remember.
Ayahuasca.
No, he went to Egypt and wouldn't tell the team, right?
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, what will you do when you're not telling nobody? Like, are you going to like a nudist retreat or something like that? Like, and I understand that. Then you don't tell nobody. But otherwise, usually you're happy about the trip you're going on. You're telling people about it. You're like, hey, we're going skiing, or hey, we're going down here, we're going to the beach, or you're always like forthcoming on that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Sean, but you don't work with Manny. You don't understand.
That is some of the wild card in this, because I think Sean's making it about Maggie, when I think Bogusch is right. It's more about Manny. It's more about what she thinks about Manny, because people know what she's doing. It's just that I have a very vague sense, so it says something about me maybe, and you seem to know what is happening. So it's not like we know she's doing something weird. We know it's not weird. It's just why does she think Manny is not trustworthy with this news?
Manny,
that's what it is.
Have you figured out?
Then it kind of shows which one in the group isn't trusted.
Yeah.
You got a leak in your group.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Sean, for the call. Is there somebody we don't trust in this group? Is there someone who we don't want to say certain things because it might go to corporate?
Yes. I mean, well, no, not trust is harsh. There are people I would say more things to than others.
Yes. Like who? You would not say, or you would say things to Bogusch?
I would not.
Yeah, Bogusch is deeply connected because he knows everybody pretty well.
Bogusch is deeply connected, but also, as we saw, like he will take something that happened off air and just bring it to the forefront, like this conversation we're having. So
yeah.
So he's not. In some ways, he's great for the show because he will take any shot. He's like Steph Curry. He'll pull up from half.
No,
not great for me if I'm trying to keep a secret.
If Bogusch thinks it's going to be funny and interesting on air, he will bring it to the air. I give him full credit for that. All right. Got a lot going on here today. Maggie and Perloff show. Maggie is off in parts unknown. I know. EJ sort of knows. Manny has no idea. Should we tell Manny? Anyway, we'll get into that.
I don't think so. Maggie doesn't want him to know.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk to a draft expert who has a couple picks in his latest mock draft that, to me, are big surprises. But he will explain that. It's Luke Easterling from Athlon Sports. He's got a lot of QBs at the top, and we're going to see if that happens. That's next, Maggie and Perloff show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie Perloff Show, Great Debate Wednesday. EJ Stewart filling in for Maggie, who's on vacation, parts unknown. We're not going to tell you. We didn't tell Manny. Great debate today. College hero, pro zero. Let's take a couple more. We got Luke Easterling from Athlon Sports, who is a draft expert, has a very interesting mock draft out there. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, a couple more college hero, pro zeros. Nadal in Dallas, good to hear from you. Who is your college star who did nothing in the pros?
Good morning. Good to talk to you, Perloff. Before I give you my pick, I do want to agree with EJ about Danny Manning.
Okay.
Everything he said was true. And the Bosworth deal with that Monday Night Football game. I got to tell you, coming from Kansas and going to KU, Bosworth was a beast. He was savage, right? After that game, it just totally changed my perception of him. So I got to agree there.
Okay.
My pick would be Lawrence Phillips, man, out of Nebraska.
Oh, yeah, but there's some side stuff going on there, right?
There was off-the-field issues. You're right. But
that's a nice way of putting it.
Didn't help.
Yeah,
didn't help.
he, I remember because I'm a big Dick Vermeil fan. Dick Vermeil came in and was trying to help him, and it didn't work. Various stops in the NFL. That's a great one, Nadal. I appreciate that. By the way, Danny Manning was referred to. Someone last hour called and said Danny Manning was a college hero, pro zero. EJ rightfully argued he had enough success in the NBA to qualify, long career. So we're talking about guys who Bogusch went with Adam Morrison, who really did nothing in the NBA.
Yeah, to me, like, if you make all-star games and stuff, like, it's hard to argue with those guys being zeros, right?
Yeah.
They didn't live up to expectation. Danny Manning was one of the greatest college basketball players of his generation. And he wasn't obviously that in the NBA, but he was still a very good player. Again, you take the Clippers in the 90s to the playoffs, that's a great accomplishment.
Can I just tell you, this is a ridiculous thing. Many years ago, we did a skit at the Dan Patrick Show where I interviewed Archie Manning about his biggest disappointment was that his third son, Danny Manning, didn't make it in the NFL.
How'd that land?
It was 2012. You were allowed to do stuff like that.
Okay.
No, Archie loved it.
He loved it. Okay.
He thought it was hysterical. He's like, yeah, I've met Danny. We've made that
That's
joke
awesome.
before.
Yeah. No, I wasn't even saying in terms of like whether it was offensive. I just thought like I wondered if he
Archie
got it. He loves
was in on
basketball and stuff. He knows.
Oh,
Danny
he's totally
Manning.
in on
Okay,
it. He
cool.
thought it was hysterical. No, he drove most
Because
of
it's
it.
very much a dad joke. So I was like,
Yeah, Archie. By the way, Archie and Cooper are the two. They should be professional comedians. They're unbelievably funny.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Those two are the personalities. He loved it. But Danny Manning, of course, no relation. Let's do one more. College hero, pro zero. Dominic is in San Francisco. Dominic, who do you got? Pro zero, college hero.
Thanks for taking my call. Somebody you've never heard of, Rick Mount.
I've heard of him.
Rick Mount from
SI cover.
University of Purdue.
Yep. He made Sports Illustrated as a high school
over
guy.
30 points a game, and he did nothing in the. He was one of the unfortunates that had to go up against Lou Alcindor in that street.
So, and I could be wrong about this, and thank you, Dominic. Rick Mount is one of seven high school athletes who made the cover of Sports Illustrated. Now, I could be totally wrong on that. There's a cover. He's got a flat top. Brightest star in high school basketball, Rick Mount. It's unbelievable. I don't know what year this is, somewhere in the 60s. And he's an Indiana star, much like Damon Bailey, who I don't know if Damon Bailey made an SI cover, but it is pretty noteworthy. When we're talking about high school guys on SI, we're talking about Bryce Harper. Yep. We're talking about LeBron James. We're talking about Sebastian Telfair and Rick Mount.
And Jabbar, I think, was on there too.
Did Lou Alcindor make it? No,
Jabari Parker.
Oh, Jabari Parker. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Jabari Parker, one of them. Most of them turned out to be busts like Rick Mount. That's a good one.
That picture, by the way, of Rick Mount, if you guys look it up, very dapper.
Well, if you're going to, it looks like Hoosiers. He's exactly a character from Hoosiers. There's a red barn in the background. He's got the flat top. He definitely had a coach who said, we're going to practice without a ball until you guys get it right, like the late Gene Hackman.
But this is like a basketball warm up. It's like it looks like something preppy. It looks like something Carlton Banks would wear.
Yeah, or it could be high fashion. Yeah, it was the 60s. All right, let's go to Andrew Bogusch with some headlines.
And guys, let's quickly talk basketball strategy. The Knicks were up 3 with 10 seconds left. They let Jason Tatum dribble up the floor fairly easily and eventually hit a step-back 3 to force overtime where his Celtics topped the Knicks 119-117. Here's head coach Tom Thibodeau on not fouling.
In transition, it's tough because of, the way he's coming at you. He got inside the 3. I think he went step back and, it's made a shot.
So 2 things.
Translation, I forgot.
I mean, because he's describing a scenario that did not happen. We saw this on TV. There was plenty of time to foul Tatum long before he was near the 3-point line to shoot.
This is one of those things that if you're not living in Knicks world like Manny and I, you may not understand. Tom Thibodeau and the way he lies in press conferences is absurd.
He just runs for politics.
He just says things that just aren't true. I mean, and then that was a shorter version of the clip. He also said, well, it was not out of a dead ball situation. I'm like, well, there was a made basket. So it wasn't like, oh, it was a missed basket. We're going like there was something that happened. Like he just says things that are just not in reality.
Yep.
And it's frustrating.
This is where Maggie would cut off the Knicks talk right here.
I'm just saying that.
No, not yet.
No, that was egregious. Anybody who watched that, whether you're a Knicks fan or not, basketball. I mean, how do you not foul there when Jason Tatum was on an absolute
terrible idea. So when you think he sounds a little bit like our spin doctor, our famous Doc Rivers, then, who also lies.
He does.
But I think of him as quite different. I had a thought yesterday when the Nuggets fired Mike Malone and Jokic is out there. Does anyone think that Doc Rivers lifted up his head and said, there's 4 games left. Lillard's hurt. Can I fly over to that? Definitely Doc Rivers eyed that spot immediately.
In order to be Doc Rivers, there needs to be a certain level of delusion you have to have.
Yeah.
And delusion that's warranted because he keeps getting jobs and people keep putting him in good positions. So I couldn't even blame him if he thought, oh, that's an interesting job. Maybe
spin away from the injured Bucks and go like, I'll coach those Nuggets.
Yeah, don't forget, no one's better than winning 3 games in a series than Doc.
One of the greatest quotes of all time.
Yeah, you think, okay, Thibodeau might lie, but he's still no spin doctor. All right.
The Lakers lost in OKC last night, 136-120, partly because Luka got a second tee and was ejected with 8 minutes to go. Luka says he was trash-talking a fan, not complaining to official JT Orr.
You can see it that happened, but, I never got a fan ejected, never. But if he's going to talk, I'm going to talk back like always. So that had nothing to do with the refs, so I didn't really understand.
Without Luka, LA outscored 29-12 over the last 8 minutes of the game. The Lakers remain 3rd in the West this morning, but just a game ahead of the Clippers, who won their 5th in a row last night, 122-117 over the Spurs. The Nuggets, Warriors, and Grizzlies have the same record as those Clips. Denver, of course, fired Michael Malone yesterday. Golden State, a 133-95 rout in Phoenix. And Memphis won in Charlotte, 124-100. The T-Wolves 1 game behind all of them. That's 8th in the West after blowing a 24-point fourth-quarter lead in Milwaukee. The Bucks winning that game 110-103.
Bogusch, do you have the tiebreakers memorized for next week?
I just know that the Clippers are first right now. And I don't know why.
Good luck finding that out.
But I think it goes Clippers, Warriors, Grizzlies, and then somebody else.
Is it?
And then we're on the T-Wolves.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll trust you.
But
you're going to be my guide.
teams.
You're going to be my guide through these tiebreakers.
I
next
am
week.
not. Let's jump to baseball, where the A's have finally won in beautiful West Sacramento.
Urshela hits one down the left field line. That's trouble, and it's by Iglesias and going to the wall. Scoring is on Duhar. Wilson around third. They're going to wave him. The throw to the plate going to be close. The dive safe at the plate. On a double to left by Urshela, and now it's a huge inning for the A's as they take a 5-3 lead.
Which became a 10-4 win over the Padres. San Diego began the day by placing center fielder Jackson Merrill on the IL with a hamstring injury. Then Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jake Cronenworth left early last night with apparently minor injuries. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Bogues. Okay. Time to talk some NFL draft. I'm really excited. EJ Stewart sitting in for Maggie Gray. So, I write for Athlon Sports, and their draft writer, Luke Easterling, is awesome. And he has a new podcast called Best Podcast Available. This week he talks to Aaron Rodgers, who for DraftNix is a big name.
Yep.
A really smart guy. And Luke is joining us from the West Coast. Luke, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
So you put out a new mock every week, and I know you have one coming up later this week, correct?
It'll be up tomorrow morning, yes.
Last mock draft, you had Shedeur in the top 3. Are you going to I don't want you to preview it, but there's a lot of smoke that Adam Schefter reported that it looks less likely. What's your take on Shedeur falling down in a lot of mock drafts and maybe falling down in teams' eyes?
Yeah, I think, every year, the quarterbacks this time of year, they move in opposite directions sometimes, depending on a lot of things. And I think when you look at his fit at 2 and 3, the closer we get to the draft every year, I change my mock drafts more from, what I would do to what I hear and what I think is actually going to happen. And so, as I hear reports like that from Shefty and a bunch of other people saying, hey, this is trending towards this way. And it's happening with other players too, where feels like Travis Hunter is kind of starting to lock himself into the number 2 pick to the Cleveland Browns, and so that impacts things. Then you look at the next spot for Shedeur. Is that the Giants at 3, and they just went out and brought in 2 veterans to kind of shore up that position in the short term to kind of keep them from being forced into taking a quarterback at 3. And so when you start having those conversations, and I also think it's tied into the Titans kind of zeroing in on Cam Ward at number 1 too, because I think there's 3 truly elite players in this draft. I think it's Travis Hunter, I think it's Abdul Carter, and I think it's Ashton Genty. And I think Ashton Genty's not going to go in the top 3. But I think if you're the Browns and the Giants and you're saying, hey, we don't love Shedeur Sanders enough to take him 2 or 3, and also we know Cam Ward's going to go number 1, which means we know we're going to get 2 of those other guys, right? We know we're going to get to choose from Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and if those 2 teams go that way, now you start looking at the rest of the top 10 and you're like, well, where does a quarterback go? Does Shedeur go 6 to the Raiders, and does he sit behind Geno Smith, which I think would be fantastic. I think I've compared him to Geno Smith in terms of his game a lot of times throughout this process, and I think he'd be a great guy to learn behind. I think Pete Carroll would be a great coach to go and play for. If he doesn't go there, does he go to the Saints at 9, which makes sense? But then, you start to get into from 9 to really like 21 to the Steelers, 26 to the Rams. Like that's where there's a big gap. And so, I mean, he could be all over the place. We're seeing reports again that Jackson Dart's moving up the board from Ole Miss. Jalen Milroe's moving, might be a first-round pick. He's going to be attending the draft, and they don't usually do that unless they're pretty confident a guy's going to go on Thursday night. And so, Shedeur is the most intriguing player, I think, at the top of this draft. I've heard people say he's a polarizing prospect. I really don't understand why that is as a football player. I think we know why it is in terms of what his last name is, and some players or teams or scouts, whoever it is, not really liking his personality or whatever it is. Man, I don't get it as a football player. That guy is a really, really good quarterback. I think he raises the floor for that position for all those teams I mentioned. He'd be an instant upgrade for the Saints, the Steelers, the Giants long-term, the Browns immediately in long-term. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how teams prioritize that and compare it with, man, we really just want one of these 2 elite players.
One of the things we've seen in the draft, and this is EJ Stewart, Luke, thanks so much for joining us. We've seen teams say, okay, you know what? We won't take this guy maybe at the super high spot, 2 or 3, but maybe we will trade back into the first round to get someone like Shedeur Sanders or maybe even Jackson Dart. Do you feel like that is something that would be worthy for a team like the Giants or the Browns, where you're kind of not guaranteed that next year's first-round pick isn't going to be super high? We saw what happened with the Texans and the trade that they made and how they ended up getting, walking out like bandits with 2 top picks. Is there do you feel like it's worth the risk for those teams to say, you know what, we don't get him now, but we'll trade back up, even if it means we got to give up a first?
No, I don't. I don't think it is, EJ. And I think the couple of different things on that. I think, first of all, if you identify a franchise quarterback in your evaluation process and you're picking at number 2 and you are in a position where you're going to get that guy, right? Cam Ward's going to go 1. If you identify Shedeur, you sit down, you have the dinners with him, you have the combine meetings, you meet with him everywhere you can, you go to the pro day, you have all the workouts. If you say this guy can be the face of our franchise, you don't get cute. you don't get cute and not take him at 2 and then hope he's going to fall past the Giants and then the Saints and then, again, the Steelers and the Rams or jump ahead of them. You don't wait on a quarterback. You cannot do it. And so you can risk it at literally any other position. But if you identify that guy as the guy who can lead your team, you have to make that pick as early as you can. You have to make it at 2, in my opinion. And the Browns in particular, I think, are an interesting case study with this particular idea, because what other franchise knows better than them what a difference the absence of a quarterback makes than a team that had Joe Thomas for a decade and didn't win anything? A team that's had Myles Garrett for almost a decade and hasn't won anything. They've had elite Hall of Fame players at premium positions, left tackle, at pass rusher. It has not meant a thing to their team success overall to have those players in those positions. So if you're saying to yourself, hey, I'd rather have Travis Hunter, future Hall of Famer, in my opinion, if they feel that way about him as a corner or a receiver, same thing with Abdul Carter. If they think he can be the next Myles Garrett and put him on the other side, that's great. You know what that looks like if you don't have a quarterback in place to make the difference for the rest of your team. And so to me, again, you can have a different conversation and say, hey, we really like Milroe and we think we can wait until he gets into the 20s and we'll trade up from, our second round pick and maybe we can have our cake and eat it too, get Travis Hunter, reunite him with Shedeur Sanders, or doing it that way is risky because, again, you're hoping Sanders can drop down there and you can do that reunion and you can trade ahead of maybe Pittsburgh, especially if they're in your division. You want to get ahead of them. But, man, it's just playing with fire with that position in particular. It's too important.
Talking to Luke Easterling, Athlon Sports Draft expert, best podcast available, like best pick available. EJ, you got that? Yeah, it's an awesome name. And it's a great podcast. I've been listening to it, Luke. So if I set the over-under at 3.5 for quarterbacks in the first round, which would you feel more confident as of right now picking, over or under 3.5 first-round QBs?
Yeah, that's tough. And I think, honestly, history tells us to take the over. And I think with the exception of the Kenny Pickett year, which I think was a reset year for the league where they were like, you know what? No, we're not doing this anymore. We're not doing this again. We're not going to overdraft these quarterbacks. Pickett went 20th, and I think another quarterback didn't come off the board to like the third round, or it was Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis and the rest of those guys, Matt Corral. But the closer we get to most drafts, teams realize, listen, if we have a 2 on a quarterback, we have a second round grade on a quarterback, we have to take him in the first round. That's just the way it goes. Like, we cannot wait. We cannot risk it. If they're a second round prospect at that position, you have to draft them around early. They don't last. They don't hang on the board. And so when you look particularly, I think Shedeur Sanders is a lock to go in the first round. But when you look particularly at Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe, Dart, I think, is a little more advanced as a passer. I think he's got better anticipation. He understands a little bit what's happening down the field a little bit better. He's a good athlete. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. But he's coming from kind of a weird offense with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. It's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, I think, for him at the next level. But he's pretty advanced as a passer in terms of using his tools in a vacuum. Jalen Milroe needs a lot of development as a passer, in particular, decision-making, consistency, accuracy. But the arm strength is not an issue. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. We've seen him in clutch moments be able to take over games and make clutch throws, the big fourth down throw to beat Auburn a couple years ago. And he's just got the trump card, man. He's got that elite speed, that game-breaking ability to just, if it's 3rd and 13 and you do everything right, sometimes it doesn't matter when a guy runs 4.3 and he's 220 pounds. He can just run by you, run through you, and move the chains or get in the end zone. And so I think teams could easily, again, I mentioned the 2 that are picking in the back half. The Steelers and the Rams are the teams that intrigue me for those 2 guys if Sanders and Ward are both off the board. And also, if the Browns and Giants don't go quarterback at 2 and 3, they're both picking early in the second round. Wouldn't surprise me if they make that little move up into the first round, that Lamar Jackson to the Ravens type move where they just move back up into the first and make sure they not only get the quarterback they want, but get that 5th-year option on the rookie contract to extend that a little bit before you have to extend them long-term. I just wouldn't be surprised if those 2 guys, because I think there's a lot of potential there, a lot of upside. We use that word. It just means there's physical traits that are starter quality, a lot of potential that we see in that position, and you just can't wait to draft that.
I had a question for you, Luke, here. And full disclosure, I'm a huge Miami Hurricane fan, right? So I've watched every game Cam Ward played this year, and it's been funny to see the number 1 rated quarterback really not be the story of the draft. In many ways, it's about the other quarterbacks. It's about these, generational defensive players and two-way players. Why do you feel like Cam Ward is not getting that, love as a generational prospect in himself? What is he missing that perhaps, we're not seeing or NFL teams aren't seeing outside the Tennessee Titans maybe?
Yeah, it's been kind of a slow burn for him up to number 1, right? It's been this weird going into this draft class. A lot of people, it seemed like we were treating it like the Kenny Pickett year, where it was just like, quarterback class is okay, especially after last year. Like, it's just, we're spoiled, right? It's a hard act to follow when you have 3 bona fide, like, number 1 overall pick type players go 1, 2, 3, and then you have 3 more go in the top 12. We've never had 6 quarterbacks in the top 12 ever. So it's a hard act to follow. And then coming into this year, we're like, maybe Cam Ward and maybe Shedeur, and maybe this will happen. And I think if you look at the tape, there's enough there with Cam where there's these decision, these I call it arm arrogance, which I think the great ones have. You have to have it, right? You have to have this kind of like, I can make that throw, and most of the time you do, and every now and then you make a throw where everybody's like, oh my gosh, what did you see there? And they're like, well, I saw a place where I think I can get the ball, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And I think the way I've always said it with quarterbacks is, if you want the greatness, if you want the special ones who can make plays like Lamar and Josh Allen and Mahomes and those guys, you're probably going to have to, at least early on, especially early on, you're going to have to deal with some headaches. You're going to have to deal with some kind of throws, because they have to push that envelope. They have to test that theory. Like, what can I get away with? And I think he did that a good bit at Miami. And I think maybe people just aren't coming around to the fact that he's got those high-end physical tools. He's got the arm talent. He's got that clutch gene to be able to, put his team on his back, inspire belief in the huddle. I think the interesting thing with Cam throughout the year last year was a couple of moments where he put them in a big hole with those turnovers, and then he got them all rallied around, and he's like, hey, guys, I'm going to get you out of this. And he did it, and he brought them back, and he made some of those comebacks. I know as well as anybody. So I think the easy answer to your question is I don't know. I don't really know why it's taken this long for people to realize, like, oh, he's a bona fide number 1 overall pick. I think that the Titans probably locked into that about a week or 2 ago, if not earlier. But I think he's got it between the ears, man. I think he's got that it factor that you need that guy to have, and the physical tools are there. I think it's just going to be a matter of, shrinking that gap between the highs of the high and the low lights, and trying to eliminate some of those. But I don't know, man. I think he's got it. I think he's got a chance to be a special player.
Luke, unfortunately, we're out of time. We're talking to Luke Easterling, Athlon Sports. Give me real quick the one hidden gem, the guy that no one's talking about that you think could be a draft day star.
Man, I think there's a million people that I could talk
Give
about.
Me one.
The guy that I love is Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State. I think this wide receiver class is fun, but he's a top 5 receiver in this class for me. I think, again, 6 foot, 200, legit. Got hurt in October and missed the rest of the season. He was banged up a little bit, but those last 4 games before he got hurt was like 150 yards. He put 200 up on Boise State, who was a ranked team they played against. He ran like a 4.4 at the combine, even though he admitted he was still working his way back from injury, so wasn't even fully healthy. So can play in the slot, can play outside, can do everything at a high level. I think if you go back and watch the film when he was healthy, he's a guy that's not getting enough love at all. I'd take him anytime in the second round.
Oh, second. Yeah. Is it possible there aren't a lot of first-round receivers? I saw like Buka is falling into the second round in a lot of mocks. We might have 2.
That's wild to me. Yeah, I think he's one of the most pro-ready. He might be one of the top 5 most pro-ready, like easy plug-and-play starters in this draft. I think there may be, but I think Matthew Golden goes in the first round. I think Tet McMillan from Arizona State, obviously Travis Hunter. That may be it, but man, if anybody gets a Buka, if you're one of those teams, you're Cleveland in the second round, you don't trade up for a quarterback. If you're Tennessee at 35, I think if Ibuka's on the board there at 35, Luther Burden the third the same way. If either of those 2 guys drop to the top of the second, man, I would be thrilled.
Yeah, me too. Luke, that was great. We will hopefully talk to you again very soon. Good luck. I know you're going to be just jamming the next couple of weeks. Best podcast available. I said best pick available. It's all best player available. Duh. But Luke, that was awesome. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Hey, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. That is a good wide receiver name to remember. It seems like it's going to be a light wide receiver draft. And then that, the trend has been a lot of guys in the first round. Maybe there's so many defensive linemen in this draft. It's going to be bizarre. There are a lot of tackles who go in the first 3 rounds. It's going to be a bit of a different draft. I can't wait. All right. We have a little more of our great debate left over. Some names that are in the chat that I want to share with you. We're doing College heroes, pro zeros. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie Perloff Show. No Maggie, she is on vacation in parts unknown. EJ is sitting in. Been a fun day, but debating college heroes, pro zeros. I don't even know if we put up the poll, but I still feel like I won this one.
Oh, the poll's up.
Yeah, is it Tebow? I have Tim Tebow.
Yeah, you're winning by a lot from last time I saw.
Because, that's only because Tim Tebow is the biggest college star of my lifetime, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is not really – I don't think this is a fair representation of what I thought were other good answers. I'm not saying you shouldn't have won.
Yes.
But I feel like, I think everybody had great answers. Charlie Ward's coming in at 11%. Jimmy Fredette's coming in at 9%. Adam Morrison at 14%. You're at 65% on Tim Tebow.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Tim Tebow is almost at 66% leading this.
And to be honest, I could argue that Tim Tebow was the best pro of all these guys.
Early returns, though.
Like, Tim Tebow led his team to the playoffs and won a playoff game. Like, Charlie Ward didn't play in the NFL. Jimmy Fredette never did anything in the NBA. And same thing with Adam Morrison. They never did anything in the playoffs. They didn't have a shot. I know Tebow wasn't that good, but he did win.
Yeah.
Still lots of time. Only 2% reported, according to my numbers.
I don't know. So I was wondering, I looked at a list from ESPN, the greatest college football players of the 2000s, and I figured Tebow was number one, and he is not. He is not even close. He's
Cam?
6.
I think I saw that list. Is it
Cam is ahead of him?
Yeah.
But he's not number one. We have done this list. Baker Mayfield's number 2. Cam's 3. Vince Young is 4. Ed Reed is 5. Number 1 is a defensive tackle.
Oh, it's Sue.
Ndamukong Suh was amazing in Nebraska, but he was not Tim Tebow. He was not Cam Newton. And Baker Mayfield was not Cam Newton or Tim. Who made this list? This is ridiculous.
Call him out.
You're telling me Baker Mayfield was as good as Cam Newton in college?
No,
I don't think he was. But the only thing with Baker, though, was that Baker had multiple years of great play. It wasn't a one-year thing.
Here's one who would qualify for our college hero pro zero, Reggie Bush.
Was he a pro zero?
No, he wasn't a pro zero.
You mean the former Buffalo Bills running back?
Yeah.
We talked about his.
Oh, by the way, Joe
average.
Burrow is 9 on this list. Joe Burrow had the greatest college season of anyone.
Yeah, I think somehow people have forgotten how great Joe Burrow's.
But Ohio State Joe Burrow was no good.
That is true. He was not great there. Honestly, junior year Joe Burrow, LSU was not great either.
Here's a good one. David Pollock, qualified injuries.
Very good player. How high was he?
15.
It's a little high.
One of the Roy Williams. I don't even know which one.
Better be the safety. He was.
Whoever made this list also was
coach.
Here's a good one. Justin Blackman, Oklahoma State wide receiver.
Oh, I remember him.
Perfect spread quarterback.
That's a great hero.
Actually.
Number 5 overall pick, Jags.
Yeah.
Honey Badgers 24. That's too low. Yeah, there's okay, here's some other. Oh, here's a good one. Robert Gallery at Iowa. He was a tackle, but that was one of the big busts of all time. Yeah, generally, football-wise, some of these great, a lot of them make it. A lot of the Heisman guys have made it. How about Marcus Mariota?
Yeah, he's a 0. I think he applies. I saw some good ones.
He's had a lot of starts, but go ahead.
Yeah, he's had a lot of starts, but he hasn't been that great. I saw a couple of really good ones in the chat. One that I think is a great one is Ron Dane. Remember Ron Dane from Wisconsin?
Yeah, but Dane did some things with the Giants. Thunder and Lightning. I mean, that's Tiki right here.
It's like 1 year of production, right?
Great nickname, though.
Yeah, oh, man. It's like the original Thunder and Lightning. Now, every time there's a big back and a small back, we always go with Thunder and Lightning.
I mean, Dane, obviously, I think he set the – does he still hold the record for – was it most yards or most touchdowns?
Yeah, he had most yards, I believe. He might still own it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think my guy Case Keenum owns every passing record. I don't think he quite qualifies. Had one really, really amazing year in the NFL, but he also wasn't – he wasn't the college hero that Tim Tebow was because he wasn't the title contender.
Yeah, I think to me, to be like in this conversation, I think you need to have like maybe one. If you didn't win a title, you had to be like player of the year caliber, and then your NFL career had to be, or NBA career, whatever sport, had to be just nothing to talk about.
How about Colt McCoy, Texas quarterback, journeyman in the NFL?
Former Giants backup
QB. I think he qualifies. He's maybe a little too good, but he's in the conversation. I think that's fair.
How about college 0, pro 0, Giants quarterback? How about that as next week's great debate? Daniel Jones comes to mind.
I veto.
Danny Canal.
Zach Wilson is the Jets.
Oh, thank goodness this bet is coming on.
I just love taking a couple shots here. Great show today. Maggie's off for the rest of the week in parts unknown. I will tell you after the show where she is. But big thanks, Manny Rodriguez, EJ Stewart filling in for Maggie, doing a great job. Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan. Andrew, help me with your last name.
Scarpacci.
There you go. The man behind the glass. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, listeners. Maggie and Perloff Show. See you tomorrow.